Hello, good afternoon. Actually, it's usually morning or night. Good afternoon. It's been a little vacation, and I'm happy to be back. Today, we'll be covering the Hegseth meets with Netanyahu, and then Trump meets with African leaders. I also have a bunch of stuff on Texas, the Epstein files. I've got yesterday's big interview there, or press conference that Trump did. So a whole bunch of stuff on the world stage. I probably will do something later on as far as the Texas floods go, unless I have more time. So we'll see how that works out. But as far as I'm concerned, that's what it is. But right now, Hegseth, whatever his name is about to go live now, or is live. What's up, Billy? Yeah, got it. Serenity had to pop in and help, but yeah, I got it. Everything is so tiny. I can't read that if you paid me. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get into at any time Trump should come on. So I'm gonna go ahead and start playing it and let it just go ahead and go. I stopped it at this guy because he was saying a whole bunch of really good stuff. So I was kind of interested at what he had to say. So here we go. Here we go.
Things about yesterday's cabinet meeting. So I'm just going to give you the floor. Your thoughts about yesterday's cabinet meeting?
Well, I want to continue to heap praise on to Trump and his administration. They're accomplishing record-breaking feats. It's almost like his first term where there were so many wins and so much progress being made that you almost couldn't keep track of it. And it was like the new normal, like just constant, amazing winning just became commonplace. And we're seeing that again now. I mean, he is just hitting grand slam after grand slam. And I think that Noam and FEMA are doing a great job down in Texas with the horrendous flooding, the tragic flooding and loss of life down there. So they're doing a great job there. But we have, another MAGA controversy with the Trump administration with the Epstein files. And so we seem to be having a string of these with the Iranian conflict and now this. And this is a really important one, though.
So tell us your thoughts about that. I mean, we know that back on February 11th, I'm going to pull it up quickly here and just read from some of my notes so I get it exactly right. Florida Representative Anna Paulina Luna announced a federal secrets declassification task force.
What's up,
so she's
Brian?
on camera at a press conference saying, hey, we're going to be very truthful and transparent here. The JFK, RFK, MLK assassinations, the information there. She said the Epstein files. And then we also heard about this client list, documents about UFOs, the 9/11 files, and the COVID files. These are not my words. That was from the representative back in February. Yeah. So we did hear, I mean, the common sense of it, I think, is, okay, we heard that there was an Epstein list out there and all that. President Trump saying yesterday, why are we focusing on that when there's a lot of other things going on? And to your point, there's a lot of wins going on. But it seems that MAGA, a number of people in MAGA and conservative voices want more to be known about these investigations. Am I wrong?
No, this is a big miscalculation, I think. As Trump's looking at all the issues like the economy and all and peace and his different legislative wins, tax breaks, these are all priorities for the MAGA movement and the American First agenda. But if you rank them all, these are like level 8, 9, 10, 12 on the priority list. And I think that when he was looking at the Epstein documents or, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and whatnot,
he's got a lot
thinking that this is like a 30th priority item or a 45th priority item. When in the mind of MAGA, this is a number 1 or number 2 priority item. And so by them just
two or
issuing the
three.
statement and releasing a memo from the FBI that was not signed, we
Where
don't know
the
who it came
children
from,
at?
and contradicting many other statements they'd previously made and many official reports that had come out since his alleged suicide in prison. This is creating mass confusion, mass doubt. And the two big things that the MAGA movement is relying on is one is open transparency and trust. They need to be able to trust that what the administration is saying. In the last administration with the Biden administration, it was just constant lying, and there was no integrity there, and it was just gaslighting and propaganda. And the hope is that with this administration, what we're going to get is the truth. We're going to get nothing but honesty and transparency and accountability. But the big issue is, and I'll keep going back to this point, is that this conflict, this administration, the MAGA movement, is about one thing. It is a populist movement to undo and break the reins of power of the current Western oligarchical power structure, the Western establishment, which is a massive central banking and Wall Street banking and multinational corporate government cabal. And this is the special interests that have done everything from manipulating our agencies, infiltrating our institutions, corrupting, blackmailing, and bribing our officials, and perverting justice in the West. And they're driving things like the woke agenda and the riots and the unrest and the illegal immigration. And so the people have had enough, but that's what the MAGA movement is, and these other movements across the world. These are populist uprisings to break this establishment power over the West. Now, why is Jeffrey Epstein so important? Well, Jeffrey Epstein was running an intelligence network blackmail operation for this group and with this group, and also running blackmail on many members of this group. And so by unleashing the evidence about the Jeffrey Epstein operation, you basically pull the thread that pulls the sweater apart of this establishment group. There's other stories in the news, like the 300,000 missing illegal alien children from the Biden era. That's another thread that if you pull it, it starts to unravel this entire story and expose these people.
Okay, there's so many different stories of missing children that all this other stuff really doesn't matter. This really matters of where are all these missing children. You got Maui, you've got what he just said, you've got what happened in North Carolina, you've got Texas. Where are all these children? Sorry.
And so this is a reform movement. Again, there have been three great reform movements in the West. The first was the thing that brought us out of the Dark Ages, which was the Reformation, out from 1,000 years of rule by the papacy and the monarchies. The second one was 1776 against the British Empire, the East India Company, the Bank of England, and their spy networks. And now, 250 years later, we are in the third great movement against the Western establishment, which is this banking cartel that has been in power since really 1913, and then they solidified their power in the 40s. And so the people are trying to throw this group off of them, and they are using things like blackmail sex operations like Jeffrey Epstein and others like P. Diddy. And this is all being done in coordination with the CIA, Mossad, probably the FBI. And so it's not surprising they don't want to incriminate themselves. Who does? Who wants to incriminate themselves? But what the Trump administration has to understand is that this is a top priority for MAGA. Because if we don't break the power of these people and we don't have our reforms, then they'll come back into power after he's gone, and then things will most likely be worse than they were before.
So you're simply saying justice to be served and to exploit those that have broken the law, that if they aren't arrested or prosecuted and arrested, then you're saying we could swing back to something that you're saying 10 times worse than Biden.
It's very possible. So that's why integrity, honesty, truthfulness is so imperative right now. And also for the DOJ, the FBI, and the CIA to go after these corrupt government officials and those associated with these efforts, and that crime would be punished. Because what this looks like is, it looks like that they're covering up the operation, protecting people, and worst of all, protecting criminals. You know, Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of sex trafficking, as was Ghislaine Maxwell, who's serving over 20 years in prison for that crime. However, we don't know, there's no information, none of the evidence has been released about who they were trafficking to. Now this memo comes out, said there was no trafficking, there was no one else involved. Pam Bondi comes out and says there's 10,000 videos plus. She has a press conference, says there's over 10,000 videos of Jeffrey Epstein with children. Now she's saying at yesterday's briefing that it was child pornography that he downloaded from the internet. When the FBI's, you know, going in and raiding all his properties and pulling out video cameras, hard drives, zip drives, VHS tapes, and then this evidence goes missing. So it's very hard to believe. There's a lot of contradictory statements, and I don't think the story's going to go away. The people in MAGA that are upset about this, they're not going to let it go. I think that this is only going to get, the temperature's going to rise higher and higher on this. So I really, really would advise the Trump administration to backstep, to course correct here, and also it's possible that we might need to see a change in leadership at the DOJ.
And some people have said some of the similar things that I've seen out there. On the other side of the coin, you were saying that, you know, the Epstein list would be one of the #1 things as a priority from MAGA, but you're saying that the Trump administration doesn't have that as high, and there's a number of other things that are above that. Do people agree with that? I don't know. I mean, I think about it. I think of freedom. I think of the Constitution. I think of saving our country. I think of law and order. I think of justice being served. But to your point, though, it seems like it's the tip of the iceberg when it comes to anything with Epstein. No, when it comes to finding out any deep state globalist connections that are trying to destroy our country, right?
You know, Trump vowed, he gave a speech because they raided his house with the FBI. They brought up false charges and tried to lock him in Rikers Island for 1,000 years. Then they tried to kill him. And all of these are very questionable, especially the Thomas Crook story. It's very questionable. There's a lot of question marks haven't been answered. And so with these people going after him, Trump gave a speech that he's going to dismantle the deep state. Well, dismantling the deep state is easy to do. It's easier than people think. Go out and expose all the people involved with Jeffrey Epstein, including the agencies. And you know what? If our agencies were involved in these criminal acts against children, let the public know. We may need to dissolve these agencies if they become criminal organizations. We can't have criminal organizations operating at the federal level of the United States of America. And that may be a consequence of releasing this information. That's okay. That's a good outcome because we're cleaning up the swamp. You know, that was another promise. So it's actually very easy to dismantle the deep state. Just expose all the Jeffrey Epstein information. Or also, and on top of that, go out and save all those 321,000 missing children and then let the public know who had them, what happened to them. Let's hear the testimony. Let's see the evidence. That also will lead greatly to this deep state, this trafficking of children. And it will make the Trump administration look like heroes because they are saving and rescuing these kids from horrible, horrible situations. And so that's how you do it. You know, these are his promises. And really, for his reforms to be permanent, this is an extremely necessary step. You know, when Dan Bongino and Kash Patel were really on the viewpoint of MAGA, they get into the administration, into the FBI, and now all of a sudden they're giving interviews and doing media tours to say nothing happened, he killed himself, there's no evidence here. And then we're going to release this video. We get the video, there's a minute missing from it, which is questionable as well. Also looks like a contradiction. And then it's not even a video of the cell. This is another video from outside of the cell block of like the guard station and the door leading into the area, I believe, where his cell was. However, the predominant theory of how this went down is that they placed another criminal in another cell near him. And then as the guards fell asleep and the cameras within the cell block were disabled or malfunctioning, then they unlocked the doors and allowed that other cell, that other criminal come out and commit the murder and then go back into a cell. But we don't have that footage. And this footage wouldn't negate that whatsoever. That's the predominant theory of how this could have gone down. And we had another medical examiner, one of the top in the world, was hired by Epstein's family to examine his body, and he said it was homicide. And no one's speaking to that. And Joe Rogan interviewed Kash Patel on his podcast and brought this up. Kash Patel was unaware that this other autopsy had been done. So there's a lot of questions here. It looks bad, and it's only going to get worse. I really would advise, we are fully supportive of the Trump administration, and I would just advise them to course correct here. This is not a level 30 or 45 priority. For MAGA, this is level 1 or 2. This is the deep state. This is the establishment.
And to your point, Ted
Well
Nugent,
said.
speaking about
Well
this
said. I
within
like
the
what this
hour,
guy said.
bringing up the Epstein situation when it happened at the cabinet meeting yesterday. So we see that people are talking about this. And that's one thing I've said time and time again here at Right Side, is when you're on the truth train, the MAGA train, the right side of history, the common sense reporting, we have a decision to make. Do we stick with what we see true when it comes to receipts and evidence and the desire, to your point, to see more wins from the Trump administration? Or do we kind of go, oh no, this is the moment where what do? Do we cover for a No, we're going for we the people, and we want more wins by President Trump. And I agree with what you're saying, T.S. Dixon. Also, the
people,
Fox
baby.
reported that the FBI has launched a criminal investigation into former CIA Director John Brennan and former FBI Director James Comey, focusing on their roles in the government's handling of allegations of that whole Russian interference bogus stuff in the 2016 presidential election against, according to reports. So we're seeing that the FBI is now making a move against some of these so-called deep staters. What do you think about that move after yesterday's situation?
I think it's a good start, but I will say my confidence is shaken in Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, and Pam Bondi's ability to perform this job correctly. So we might have a real investigation. Hopefully we'll have a real investigation with real justice, because we already have the evidence. You almost don't even need an investigation. We have so much evidence with Crossfire Hurricane that it was a conspiracy. It was a political coup within the United States of America for them to overthrow a duly elected president and displace him from office illegally. And there's no statute of limitations for a conspiracy. So I'm glad they're investigating. But will this be yet another cover-up? Will they will do an investigation, then cover up for these actors? I don't know. I get it that there's dealing that has to be done, and there's deals that are made.
Nice.
I understand that there's compromises that have to be done. It is a democracy. However, when it comes to this is so essential to his reforms. Really, we have to keep in mind who Trump is. He is the populist champion. He is the charismatic leader charging the way for the populist movement worldwide throughout the West. To disrupt this power establishment that's been in control for 100 years and break their monopoly of power over Western countries. And this is extremely essential that this happen now. And so he is there to fulfill that role, and it's an amazing role within history. So it would be a great shame for him to negotiate with these people. There's no need. He has all of the cards. Again, there's no need. This is a master negotiator. There's no need for him to negotiate with them.
100%. T.S. Dixon, thanks so much for your insight, your analysis. T.S. Dixon, conservative analyst and author. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks. See ya.
12:03, Wednesday, July 9th, here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, as we are live awaiting a feed from the White House there. We know that the president will be meeting with a number of leaders there, African leaders, for a luncheon that's scheduled for 12:05 Eastern. So a couple minutes out, and as soon as we see a live feed, we'll take you there live on Right Side. So again, if you missed any of our coverage today, we started at 10 this morning. We had the great Ted Nugent join us, Ira Dean, the solo artist, as well, as they just released a new song honoring the life of Charlie Daniels. It was wonderful to play that music video and to hear from Ted Nugent. and Ira Dean. So if you missed those interviews, you can always watch it on replay or scrub back and check it out later. And also that was just T.S. Dixon. So if you're just joining us, you can maybe watch a lot of the interviews, because a lot of what we do here is the coverage of what's happening live, right? That's why it's called RSBN Live. We're going to bring you to the White House there live. We saw the Pentagon at around 10:30 live. We get that. And we also bring up different stories that are happening out there in the 24/7 news cycle. Of course, the tragic floods in central Texas. And now there are floods that happened in New Mexico. We're monitoring the latest on those things. But also, of course, with the interviews, we dive a little deeper into what's going on out there. And that's what you call a broadcast, a news broadcast, especially one that is from a free, an honorable press, where it's not left-wing mainstream media false narrative talking points that's trying to dupe the American people and public opinion. It's instead doing quite the opposite. I'm an American citizen, just like many of you that are watching, on the right side of history. So we the people, it is always going to be about what is true and what is on the right side of history. So yeah, is anybody perfect? No. But the thing is Jesus is, and for forgiveness of sin, but also just to have a new creation, to move on with your journey in life and to do your best. And that's really what this is all about in this country, is for us to do our best and to really kick butt as much as we can. If you want to watch that Ted Nugent interview, please do. Quite the interview earlier today, around 11 o'clock that happened. So, all right, let's go to a couple sponsors here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, 12:05 Eastern Time. You see All Family Pharmacy right there. Let's go to that script quickly, as we know that this is some breaking news with RSBN, as All Family, its entirety from the start to the finish. We're not going to interrupt, of course, anytime the president's speaking, and also when it comes to various events, including press briefings by Carolyn Levitt and other events that we cover here at Right Side. So again, let's go through a little bit of the schedule for the week. We know that on Friday, President Trump will be going to Central Texas, of course, on the heels of what happened there with the tragic situation of more than 100 of our citizens, 100 Americans that lost their lives because of this flash flood that hit on July 4th. And then into New Mexico now, if you're looking at videos and staying up on weather and just news in general, I mean, you saw some of the videos of houses just being washed away, literally washed away. And we're not talking about small houses. We're talking about decent sized homes just washed away, just like it's nothing there. So, and a lot of people talking about how in the world that can happen. And we dove into some of those topics earlier in the broadcast. So again, we started at 10 this morning. Looking forward to seeing the president there with a number of these leaders for this luncheon. We saw a little bit in New Mexico. I'm just going to tax-free, and also
many other things, far
30,000 foot view. Again, that's my 2 cents on that. All right, so 12/18, Wednesday, July 9th. Well, let's go to some more of President Trump's cabinet meeting from yesterday. We have a few more clips. We're going to talk about the big, beautiful bill, international trade, and also President Trump's stance against the mainstream media. Of course, we know, coining that whole fake news thing back in the day. And if you're just side of the Pentagon, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meeting with the Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and then we also saw the two for about 5 minutes, meet inside.
Sorry, guys, I wasn't
They
about to
spoke
sit there and
for
watch
about
that.
that 5 minutes, so
Sorry.
we may go to that
Oh.
video as well, as we are still standing by awaiting the president of the United States, along with
Waiting for Trump
a
to
number of
come
world
on.
leaders from the continent of Africa
Everybody
for
hit
the
the like,
luncheon. So as soon
subscribe
as
if
we
you
see that,
haven't. Thank you.
and then
Good
we'll see if the
afternoon,
president will
everybody
take any
just popping
questions,
in.
whether it's before the luncheon, during it, after it. So we'll just monitor that as we see it, as it's the bottom of the hour, 12:30, Wednesday, July 9th. We also know that there are a few other topics that were discussed during that cabinet meeting yesterday. If you're just joining us, we covered pretty much
I can't wait
most
to
of
watch
them,
that
or at least the ones that a lot of
meeting,
people are talking
guys.
about. You can check out.
I can't wait to watch the cabinet meeting after this, because that was such a good one. There's so much to talk about with all that.
Our coverage over the past couple hours, if you'd like. A lot of great interviews with Ted Nugent, Ira Dean, the solo artist, T.S. Dixon, pretty recently. So just to hear what they have to say about just everything that's going on and why they're patriots in this country and on the right side of history. And then also we saw, of course, the greeting there between the Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, and the Israeli leaders. So what we can do is we can go to that video from inside the Pentagon in just a minute. Before we do that, let's wrap up some of the different sound bites or different clips from yesterday's cabinet meeting. We have 2 more to go. On international trade, the president was talking about that yesterday. Then also the president was talking about the mainstream media. So let's talk about the international trade, and let's go to that right now.
Yes, sir. We will have taken in about $100 billion in tariff income thus far this year, and that's with the tariff, the major tariff not having started till the second quarter. So we could expect that could be well over $300 billion by the end of the year. We don't agree with CBO scoring, but for those who do, the CBO scored tariff income over the next 10 years at 2.8 trillion, which we think is probably low.
Okay, so this Department of Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent speaking yesterday about all of the trade that's happening. Of course, President Trump, just like President McKinley, when it comes to the trade efforts, President Trump, of course, surpassing President McKinley in a number of ways when it comes to trade throughout the globe. So also we heard from President Trump speaking about the mainstream media yesterday, the good old mainstream media. Let's take a look.
But they were a little downbeat because they listened to that fake CNN reporting and the fake New York Times. They worked together to try and say that it wasn't perfect. They couldn't say they missed. All they could say is maybe it wasn't perfect. And you ought to fire that reporter immediately. You should fire her. Real fake. And so I just want to congratulate those pilots. And a lot of people don't like bringing things like that up. I do. I always like confronting, because otherwise the public doesn't know that you're a bunch of crooked people. But they know, they've learned. And the media has to straighten out their act. The media is down to 17% approval. You got to do a little better than that. It's important for the country that you do better. I think they ought to make a lot of changes. I think changes are going to be made to the media, but it's hard to have a really successful country if you have a corrupt media. And we really have a corrupt media. And nobody really knows why. I mean, why would you want to have open borders and criminals pouring into our country? Why would you want to have men playing in women's sports, transgender for everyone? You'll have to figure that out. But some of you don't. I mean, I'm looking at some people, they love the country, but I look at other people and they can't. But we're really proud of our military.
Welcome back as we're live here at 12:32. Of course, that was from yesterday's cabinet meeting as we're in the 24/7 news cycle, monitoring the latest news from the White House, and also various topics that are being discussed throughout the interwebs, as they used to call them, I guess. All right, so it's 12:32. Once again, as we await the President of the United States, we know that at 12:05 was part of that public schedule for him to meet with a number of foreign leaders for a luncheon. So as soon as we see that feed once again, we'll take you there. In the meantime, looking at various posts on Truth Social, President Trump posting a number of articles when it comes to various wins in the administration, but also to a number of various world leaders in regards to trade. So you can check that out if you'd like on Truth Social. In the meantime, let's shift gears as we continue to await the commander-in-chief. You know, one of the first things President Trump did when he became the 47th president was to say that there is a national emergency on the southern border. So what we do know is that the military was sent there and is still there. And I believe the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security recently visited the southern border. Here's that video from the DOD.
You get to see, you know, what we were dealing with and what we're dealing with now. So this right here was 2023. This is just last year. This is nothing crazy. And now you're looking at clean levee area. This is the river. So they're waiting to come in. They've been helping. They're here.
Iraq 06 or 7 months. Okay, I understand that. I feel like we kind of missed out a little bit, but I'm
also encounter the breach right there. We don't have a lot of agents on ground.
Trump should be on soon.
Before they even have a thought of crossing over, we just turn this on and we hit the alert. Honestly, you could go all the way up to the red right there, and that's just halfway up to.
So these are very important for us too, sir, because we do have drones with the cartel flying over. We'll do this so they can also have a payload of drugs on there. So it's very important that we stop them.
Okay, so that was a little bit of inside baseball, just obviously raw video, just put together in just from a recent trip by the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security meeting with the military along the southern border. If you've been following any of the Truth Social posts that I post on that great site, I do post a lot about the southern border and just seeing all these visuals of, you know, Army strikers riding along the border there and seeing Customs Border Protection doing the work that they do to secure, seal, and close that border. So great to see that there on the southern border. Also, we see that within the northern border and out there in the open sea with Coast Guard and Navy and the like. So great to see that. All right, let's go to mypillow.com/RSBN. So many products. I'm going to see how many I can name. Ready? MyPillow, obviously. The mattress topper, slides, slippers, the My Coffee, the Go Anywhere pillow, the My Cross. You see the bed sheets, the Giza Dream sheets, the multi-use My Pillow 2.0, and that Go Anywhere pillow is just awesome. Again, if you're on a road trip, or if you're going on an airplane, you know, you just have this nice, perfect pillow, you're good. So mypillow.com/RSBN, great sponsor here, and a great person, of course, in Mike Lindell. Also, if you'd like to donate to Right Side Broadcasting Network, you can do so by texting RSBN to 801-801 or go to rsbnetwork.com/donate. As you guys know, we're not the luncheon to start. Maybe the luncheon already did start, and maybe the live feed that we're going to get is mid-lunch or at the end of lunch. Who knows? But we're waiting here live with you as we await President Trump and these great foreign leaders as they have a luncheon here in just a few minutes, or maybe right now. I'm not in the room, so I don't know, but it is the Blue Room at the White House. I'm pretty sure I saw that on the president's public schedule. Speaking of the schedule, Friday, President Trump will be going to Central Texas. Of course, we know the tragic events that unfolded there. And then on top of that, we know that in New Mexico, there was some flooding as well, just within the past 24 hours. So we'll see if there's a tragedy in New Mexico. I wonder if the president would go a state over or not. So we'll see. We'll have that live coverage for you on Friday. As for tomorrow, what we're going to do is we wait for the president's schedule as well. Sometimes there's a press briefing. I believe tomorrow may be a good day for one. I'm just guessing. We saw one earlier this week, but nothing right now that we know of for tomorrow until later tonight. That's usually when the networks get the president's public schedule. And obviously you can get it too if you'd like. There's just different ways to find it on there. You just have to search a little bit. But also, we'll have live coverage for you here on Right Side tomorrow and Friday, of course. And then even through the weekend, if there's ever any breaking news or things like, you remember when, well, of course you'll remember this. I mean, Saturday, that night when President Trump addressed the nation, that the 3 targets in Iran were hit by United States forces. Well, President Trump spoke that night at 10 o'clock Eastern. We were live here in the studio over the weekend. So various coverage, depending on what's needed, we'll be there for it. And we're here for you right now as it's 12:41 Eastern time. We started at 10 this morning. I've had a number of live interviews and a number of great guests on the show, including T.S. Dixon, Ted Nugent, Ira Dean as well. So if you want to check it out, all you have to do is scrub back and watch. Or maybe after this event, of course, we'll see the president. You can just watch the whole thing on replay if you'd like. I mean, though sometimes a video is not, we're known for our live coverage, of course, but though sometimes, maybe it's 20 minutes so-called old, it's still fresh content. It's still stuff that people are talking about, and we have that here for you at Right Side. So if you'd like to follow Right Side on Truth Social, it's at RSBN. More than 3 million followers on there, and then more than 1 million followers on X. And I'm going to say something about X here, because I've been wondering this. So I like X, right? I mean, it's great. It's freedom of speech. It's a good thing. So for our followers on RSBN, we have 1.1 million followers, but we've had 1.1 million followers for quite some time. And on other sites like Rumble and even YouTube and Truth Social, the numbers of followers have been increasing. I kind of watch, I look, I check out these various things, right? And for X, for some reason, it's been 1.1 million. And I don't know if that's right. Well, maybe it is, but seriously, Truth Social, the numbers have jumped from 2 million to 3 million. On YouTube, we've seen the numbers jump. And of course, on the great live streaming platform, Rumble, I've seen a jump. I believe last time I saw was 500,000 on Rumble. And I'm bringing this up because I think it's important that we really let everyone know about conservative media, because this whole mainstream thing is now an old dinosaur at this point. And people aren't watching because the people aren't resonating over there. They're not telling it like it is. They're not on the right side of history.
Man, I wish I could
do they really care about we the people?
Else.
They would
the second I go to something else,
I'm sure there's some people in mainstream media, just
the second I go to something else, it's
reporting
pop
some
on.
factual things, but it's a very small number. But anyway, so let me just double check on the great Rumble, and I want to double check for the amount of subscribers on Rumble. If you're watching on Rumble, thank you so much for doing so. Last time I checked was at 533,000. It's now at 575,000, and that number keeps going up. And then again on YouTube, we saw it at 1.9 million. Now it's I think 1.96, and that was pretty recent. And then again on Truth Social, the numbers increase. So for some reason at X, it just says 1.1 million, and it's been there for a long time. Anyway, I don't know. Is there truth to what I'm saying? Maybe. It's just an observation, and I'm sharing it with you as we've been standing by for quite some time here, live since 10 this morning, as it's 12:44 on the East Coast. Thanks so much for waking up with us on the West Coast out there.
No country wakes up in the morning and says, "Oh, I want to think about Sweden."
But
no.
For those of you that just woke up, hey, thanks for joining us. If we would like to,
nobody gives a damn.
We may be able to play some of the videos that we played earlier, or we could just dive into some more topics.
Y'all wake up and think about America.
What do you want to do here?
Think about that for a minute.
But we're looking forward to seeing
I don't
the
even
president
know
here. He's
who's
going
in
to
your
be meeting
cabinet,
with
what type
a number
of government,
world
who's your
leaders
government,
at
but
the
you
White
know
House
everything
for
about
this luncheon,
mine.
and we'll take you there live.
Think about that.
And we'll look forward to seeing this coverage here, just
we
like
don't
we brought you
care.
the cabinet.
We got
meeting
enough
from
to worry
yesterday.
about.
So Speaking of diving into a few things, one thing that affects us all right now is the big, beautiful law. So let's go over a few of those facts once again here as we await the president. So we know it's the largest tax cut in history for middle and working class Americans. Now, the Joint Committee on Taxation says the tax bill will most benefit workers and families making less than $50,000 per year. However, bigger paychecks, there will be some bring-home pay of $10,000 or more in annual take-home pay for families. So,
Come on, dude.
of course, Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation,
Give us.
really adamant about getting this
I'm
thing
ready
off
to
the
go
ground,
to the
no
other
pun
one,
intended,
bro.
because we have to have up-to-date systems within our country. So we're going to see that happening with air traffic control, so ATC. There will be a permanent increase in the child tax credit for more than 40 million families. Also, permanently securing our borders by finishing the border wall and hiring thousands of new officers when it comes to ICE and Border Patrol agents. Wouldn't it be nice and wouldn't it be great? After all those chants that we heard at all those rallies of build the wall, finally, we already see that hundreds of the miles of the wall has been built. But we are also looking for the remainder of it throughout the southern border. So that's going to happen. Driving down energy costs with a massive expansion of domestic oil and gas production capacity. Also, a tax deduction on Made in America auto loan interest. The big, beautiful law also will have protection for 2 million family farms from punitive double taxation.
Here's what I'm going to do.
It will also create a Trump investment account for every American newborn. Also, it will restore fiscal sanity by cutting $1.5 trillion in spending. Speaking of spending, we know that balancing the budget is a huge thing to do, as we are north of 34 trillion. I believe the latest number is $37 trillion in debt. We don't want a fiscal collapse of any kind. We know that the president has all of these great things happening in the big, beautiful law. We also know that that's on his mind as well, along with the team of, well, we got to figure out now maybe a big, beautiful spending cut bill with some of the Doge cuts and that kind of thing. We'll see how it goes. That was a thought brought to us by T.S. Dixon a couple weeks back. Also, this will strengthen Medicaid by eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse and blocking illegal immigrants from receiving Medicaid. Funding the Golden Dome missile defense system to confront 21st century threats. And then also modernizing our military to ensure that it has the resources to be a ready, lethal fighting force after 4 years of the Biden era weakness. So that sums up the big, beautiful law that's now taking place for our country as we're approaching the top of the hour, 12:48, live here on Right Side. Let's look at X real quick and see if there's any breaking news stories right now. We see from Homeland Security 11 seconds ago, during a targeted enforcement operation, ICE in St. Paul, Minnesota, arrested convicted sexual predators. Governor Walz and his fellow sanctuary politicians are fighting to keep these sex offenders and other criminal illegal aliens in our country. So then Homeland Security has posted a number of the photos of these people. That's from Homeland Security. Let's go to anything else that we see here. Right now, according to disclose.tv, Microsoft pledges more than $4 billion in cash and technology services to train millions of people to use AI. That, according to the New York Times. Again, to repeat that article that we're hearing from the New York Times is that Microsoft is pledging more than $4 billion in cash and technology services.
What I think I'm going to do
AI.
is I'm going to
Interesting story there as we check out Truth Social.
I'll give it a couple
President
more
Trump
minutes,
continues to
and then
post
if
in
it
regards
doesn't,
to a
come
number
on.
of
I'm just going to go
countries
ahead
when
and
it
go
comes
to
to
yesterday's,
international
and then I'll
trade.
go back to
A number
today's
of
if
the
I have
letters
to, like,
that he signed there,
afterwards,
so you can check
because
that out if
I
you'd
want
like
it. I want it.
on
Get
President
to
Trump's Truth Social page.
the
I'm going to go through a
juice.
couple articles that we're monitoring here at Right Side as we are standing by for this great meeting between President Trump and the leaders from the continent of Africa. I believe there are 5 African nations. The heads of state will be there for this luncheon. Before we get to some articles that you'll see on Right Side Broadcasting Network, let's go to the great All Family Pharmacy as well, as RSVN, of course, is great and happy to partner with All
I'm
Family
just gonna
Pharmacy
go
and use
ahead
breaking news with this great
and
group. They're known for standing up for medical freedom,
Play
and they
this,
just launched their
'cause
biggest sale of the year. So it's
I'll
now
come back
through
to this.
July.
Sorry, guys. I personally like drinking coffee, and I have no patience to sit there and listen to this monotone guy. I'm sorry. Hit the like, share, subscribe.
And
Here we
we
got
have
the
a
red.
tremendous group of people here that have done a great, unified, beautiful job. I want in particular, because of what she's gone through this last few days, done an incredible job. As you know, Christy, I'm going to ask you to say a few words about Texas. The first person there was first person I saw on television was you, actually. And you've worked great with the governor, who's terrific. And you might want to tell a little bit about the trials and tribulations, but we appreciate the job that you and everybody have done. You had people there as fast as anybody's ever seen. So really appreciate it. We all do. And maybe you could say a few words.
Sure. Well, thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank you for your leadership. Texas is strong, and the people of Texas are incredibly strong. They've gone through something that is absolutely horrific, and it is heartbreaking to watch these families suffer the way that they are. As soon as this flash flooding event happened, the governor has activated his emergency responders. Nim Kidd is his emergency management director, who is incredible, and has immediately worked with the local first responders to get help to individuals and get them evacuated, put requests into me. We deployed, sir, right away, as you know, because you and I were talking a lot during this time, the Coast Guard. We also had some assets out of Customs and Border Protection. Our board TAC teams went in and helped with rescues and clearing debris so that we could get roads open and people get the help that they need. I think when I got there the most, sir, that day, as soon as I arrived on site, was getting a briefing from all the emergency responders, was just how unified they were in focusing on the fact that we're there to save lives. They were there to rescue people, find people who were still alive, and to reunify them with their family members. We as a federal government don't manage these disasters. The state does. We come in and support them. And that's exactly what we did here in this situation. FEMA went to an enhanced level immediately. But as soon as you signed the major disaster declaration, we were able to get them resources and dollars right away, just like you envisioned, through state block grants to help them with cleanup. And we're still there in presence, and FEMA's been deployed, and we're cutting through the paperwork of the old FEMA, streamlining it much like your vision of how FEMA should operate. And it's been a much better response to help these families get through this terrible situation. We still are looking for people. We're still looking for a lot of little girls and other family members that were camping along that river. And they will continue until they find every single person, and we will continue to help them and assist in that. I was surprised when I got there at the camp that day, right after this happened, the parents that were there, the parents that were looking for their children and picking up their daughter's stuffed animals out of the mud and finding their daughter's shoe that might be laying in the cabin, and just hugging and comforting people matters a lot. I'm extremely grateful for God's hand in that whole situation, because hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people were saved. And this is a time for all of us in this country to remember that we were created to serve each other. God created us to take care of each other. And that when we do that, we are happier, we are more fulfilled, and we can walk alongside people on their worst day and help them get through it and come out the other side, knowing that we can continue to live a life that God has purposed for us. So they're grateful for you. Several times the day after the flooding, you and Melania were on the phone with me, and I want to thank you for that. And that meant the world. I was able to tell many of those folks that I had been visiting with you, and that you had said whatever they need, Christy, let's deploy it and get it down there and be helpful. And on Sunday, when the families were waiting at a church to identify their children's bodies, Franklin Graham and I called in and prayed with the families and read some scripture with them. And he was incredible in making himself available to that as well. But we'll be back down there in a couple of days and continue to do all we can. But this is an unprecedented event. It really is. There's been tragedies like this around the country, but everyone is unique in different situations. And the response the federal government had supporting the state through this, I'm proud of the people that stepped up and immediately came. The Coast Guard, when they came in, they had a difficult time even getting the aircraft in and landed. They had to try several times in the weather to get it in and deploy. And I think we've heard about, our one Coast Guard member that was responsible for saving over 165 people, but that entire crew did incredible work. And all the first responders there did incredible work. And I know people are getting tired now, but they're getting reinforcements and volunteers are showing up. And I just want to commend the governor and his team for being the leaders. And they're so thankful that you're letting them make the decisions and manage the response like it should be. And then us supporting them with the resources of the federal government. We've already deployed dollars to the state, much like the block grants that you've talked about. Right. So they're grateful for that, sir.
There's never been a wave like this outside of the breaking of a dam. Because this was almost a wave that ended up being 30 feet high, more actually. Now with the dam, you can understand it, but this approached almost with that speed. When you see a dam break, it's not a pretty sight. It wipes out everything. And this is the kind of thing that built up so fast. And it's happened 2 or 3 times before over the years, but not to this extent. But tell them when you met the father who was picking up the daughter's clothing. And
I had walked through the cabin where all the little girls died. And I had kind of fallen apart in there, but I walked out of the cabin and a gentleman was standing there and he said, that man over there needs a hug. And so I walked over to him and I hugged him and I said, do you work here? And he said, no, my little girl was in that cabin. And he said, and I just found her best friend about an hour and a half ago. She had passed away. And he just fell apart. And so then we just hugged and talked for probably an hour about that. But then there was the grandpa was there looking for his granddaughter as well. There was a dad there of one of the counselors. The counselor was alive, but she was dealing with the fact that she had hung on to some of these girls and was trying to keep them out of the floodwaters and had gotten hit by something and had lost two of the girls and wasn't able to hang on to them and was going to live the rest of her life thinking about.
And go live to the press conference. He is now live. All right, let's go. This is different. Here we go. Boom. See if there's anything I've missed so far. Here we go. Oh, shoot. Here we go. Sorry, guys. Where's the sound? Oh, yeah. Turn the sound off.
At the end of this broadcast, feel free as we continue to hold down the fort here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, it's 12:51. What we can do now is go over a couple of the talking points from
represented today, and your continent is represented by Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mauritania, and Senegal, all very vibrant places with very valuable land, great minerals, great oil deposits, and wonderful people. Last month, the U.S. Africa Business Summit had recorded an attendance record, actually, and generated $2.5 billion in new economic deals for the United States. On June 27th, the foreign ministers of the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda visited the White House to sign a historic peace agreement that we worked out. They've been fighting for 30 years. 7 million are dead. and they think the number is actually quite a bit higher than that. It's been a long and vicious fight, and I just wanted to say that the countries represented were very happy that we were able to solve that problem. I think over the next couple of weeks, the leaders of both countries will come to sign the final agreement. As you know, we had foreign ministers last week, but we're going to be signing an end to the horrible 30-year war. It's been going on for a long time. I've been reading about it, hearing about it, and it was a vicious war. It was a terrible war. I want to thank our outstanding senior advisor for Africa, Masad Boulos, for helping to mediate this breakthrough. He was very much involved in that settlement. Most people thought it couldn't be done, but there's still much more to be done, and we're going to be facilitating peace also in places like Sudan, where they have a lot of problems, Libya and others. We have there's a lot of anger on your continent, and we've been able to solve a lot of it. My administration is committed to strengthening our friendships in Africa through economic development efforts that benefit both the United States and our partners. And we're shifting from AID to trade. We had AID, or aid as we sometimes call it, right to trade. And trade seems to be a foundation that I've been able to settle a lot of these disputes, like as an example, India and Pakistan, Kosovo, Serbia. I said, you guys are going to fight, we're not going to trade. And we seem to be quite successful in doing that. To that end, we have closed the USAID group to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse, which was tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse. And we're working tirelessly to forge new economic opportunities involving both the United States and many African nations. There's great economic potential in Africa, like few other places in many ways. In the long run, this will be far more effective and sustainable and beneficial than anything else that we can be doing together. I'm eager to work with each of you on your vital issues and also to discuss security. We've encouraged our staff at the White House to work along with these nations. There's such tremendous wealth there and potential there. We encourage the countries here today to make greater investments in defense, and hopefully, of course, buying our equipment, because we do make the best defense equipment. I guess we proved that about 2 weeks ago in Iran, but we make the best equipment, best military equipment anywhere in the world by far. There's nobody close. And keep pursuing the fight against terrorism, which is a big problem in Africa. Immigration will also be on the, I hope we can bring down the high rates of people overstaying visas and also make progress on the safe third country agreements. And once again, I want to thank you all for being here. And it's an honor for me. Some of you I've met and some of you I just got to meet. And I think it would be nice if you said a few words to the press, which is right back here. Do we have a camera over here? Be nice if you could. Oh, there it is. You could speak to the, you don't want to turn your head. I do it a lot. It's not pleasant, but perhaps we could start. Thank you very much. Great gentleman, by the way.
Merci pour m'avoir donné la parole, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you for giving me the floor, Mr. President. First of all, I would like to thank you, Mr. President Trump, for inviting us to come here today. I'm President Ghazouani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. Thank you, Mr. President, for this invitation and the invitation you sent to the other colleagues present here today. This is a very strong message from you, and we are receiving this message very well. This is a message of interest.
Honestly, I don't see Sweden doing any
message that you're sending to the whole of Africa. All of this is generous on your part. We are receiving this and we accept this message from you.
en ce qui, je voudrais aussi, avant de venir à la présentation de mon pays,
Before I talk about my country,
dire tout l'intérêt que nous portons
I would like to
à
let you
l'engagement
know
du
that
président
we
Trump
are
en faveur de la paix à travers le monde.
delighted to see President Trump's commitment to our
Vous êtes,
continent. Mr. President,
Au cours de cette petite période qui ne dépasse pas quelques
in the
mois,
short time you've been
à
back
chaque
in
fois,
office, the last few months,
vous venez au secours de la paix.
you
Vous
came
l'avez
to the
fait
rescue for
en Asie,
peace. You did
entre
it in
le
Asia
Pakistan et l'Inde,
with
quand
Pakistan and India.
cette guerre avait commencé. Et si elle avait continué, on
The
peut
war sort of started,
imaginer
and if it had gone
vraiment les
on,
conséquences
the consequences
désastreuses
could have
qu'elle aurait
been
entraînées.
a real disaster.
Vous avez, depuis le début, vous êtes sur un
Since the
travail
beginning,
énorme en ce qui concerne
You've been doing a
cette
great
guerre
deal of work
au niveau de l'Europe, c'est-à-dire
on the
Ukraine,
war
ce
in Europe,
conflit.
that is
Trump's
the
like, I don't
conflict
know what the
between
hell this
Russia and
guy's
Ukraine.
Vous
saying.
n'avez pas tardé à
You
venir rapidement aussi
rushed
en Afrique
to Africa
pour résoudre
I
un
wonder
problème
what's going
resolve
through his head right now. Like,
a
il y a eu
long-standing problem.
beaucoup d'efforts qui ont été
Lots of
consentis
efforts had been made
par beaucoup de chefs d'État.
by
sit
many
there
heads
and
of
Mushka,
states,
Mushka,
il est arrivé
like, yeah,
but
qu'avec votre
I
volonté,
want to go
your
vous
will
avez fait signer
made it
What's going on in
possible
Texas?
for this
Et maintenant,
agreement
nous
to be
avons
signed.
ce conflit
And now
derrière nous.
this conflict is behind
Vous êtes en
us.
train de travailler
You are
avec
currently working
beaucoup d'enthousiasme,
with a great deal of
avec
enthusiasm.
beaucoup d'intérêt et de force.
You're gonna
Sur
make
le
me
Moyen.
start cussing
And
Sweden
you're also
out.
working
aussi,
on
c'est
the
un
Middle
deal.
East. You're paying a great
Nous
deal of
savons
attention
I'm
to the
gonna
Middle
have this
East.
fucking
Et vieux,
breakdown
All
on your damn
know
on
how
your
far back
country,
this
yo.
conflict
C'est
goes.
un conflit qui est vieux,
It is a conflict
d'à peu près 80 ans.
that is about
Plus
80
quand
years
même.
old,
Talk about
70 ans.
Sweden.
70
c'est
years.
aussi
Nobody
une
talks
guerre
about
But it is
Sweden.
also a
Nobody
war
cares.
Une année.
that has been raging for
Mais elle a
Well,
coûté
a
la
roast
year
vie.
and a
the shit
Vous
out
half.
of
l'avez dit vous-même.
And you've
a
also
coûté la
talked
vie
about the
à
human
énormément
toll.
de personnes.
Many people have died in this conflict.
Donc, tout cela, en énumérant ceci, vous avez bien sûr trouvé,
Of course,
fait arrêter la guerre
you also
entre
stopped
l'Iran et Israël. Et
the
là
war
aussi,
between
ça allait
Iran
être
and
désastreux
Israel.
pour toute
That could have
la région,
been
qui est une
a
région
real
effectivement
disaster for
très
the
sensible.
region. It's a sensitive region
Donc,
to start with.
vos efforts en faveur de la paix sont
Your
multiples.
work
Nous vous
in favor
remercions
of peace
et nous vous disons
has been
tout l'intérêt
tremendous.
aussi
And
que nous portons
we
et
are
soutenons
also very
dans ce sens
interested
de la paix.
in supporting peace.
Parce que quand il
in
n'y a,
the same way.
il n'y a pas de paix, vous venez de le dire
When there's
tout à
no
l'heure,
peace, like you
président
said
Gabriel,
earlier today,
quand il n'y a pas de
when
paix,
there's
nous
no
manquons de
peace,
beaucoup de choses intéressantes.
a lot of other
Quand
things
il n'y
are
a pas de paix,
lacking. When there's no
il y
peace,
a difficilement de la prospérité.
it is difficult to have
Il y a
prosperity.
difficilement de la
It
tranquillité.
is difficult to have calm, to
On dort
have
mal. On n'est pas
a sense of
à l'aise
quietness.
dans la
It's
vie
hard to
quotidienne
sleep.
de
It's
chacun.
hard to go about your business
Ça,
every
vous le
day.
comprenez, Monsieur
You
le Président,
understand
vous
that
travaillez
well,
là-dessus.
Mr. President,
Donc,
and you're working
merci.
on this. So
Quand même.
thank you.
On doit vous le dire.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Moi, je suis président
I am
de
the
la Mauritanie.
president of Mauritania.
Le président, la Mauritanie est un petit pays.
Mauritania is a small country.
Un petit pays selon certains critères.
Depending on the criteria you
Si on
apply.
parle du nombre
If you look
d'habitants,
at the
de
number of
population,
people who
la
live
Mauritanie
in
est
Mauritania,
un petit pays parce qu'on
it's a
est aux
small
environs de
country
5
because we
millions
have
de
about
personnes.
5 million
Si on
people
est un
in
peu plus, c'est
Mauritania.
un tout petit peu.
We might just be a little
Elle
bit
est
over
aussi
5
un
million.
petit pays
It's a small country also in the
dans
sense
l'influence
that
qu'elle fait à travers le monde. C'est pas comme les
what
États-Unis.
influence it has throughout the world. It's not like the US, Mr.
Donc, sur le
President.
plan du poids que nous avons, on est à l'international. Nous
Internationally,
reconnaissons et nous n'avons pas de complexe.
we
de dire que nous
understand that our weight, our influence is not that great, and we have no complex about
Like
this.
that shit.
Elle est aussi un petit pays. en
It's
ce
also
qui
a small
concerne
country.
You gotta
le niveau de
speak in English,
prospérité.
Anna.
Because of our
Nous ne
level
sommes pas
of
très prospères.
prosperity. We're not
Et nous
a
avons
very
encore
prosperous
beaucoup de
country.
problèmes pour le
We have
bien-être de la
many
population.
problems related to the well-being of our
Mais elle est
population.
aussi un grand pays.
But it is also a great country, a
Par
big
d'autres
country in other ways.
un grand pays par sa
Mauritania
position stratégique.
is a great country in the
C'est-
sense of its
Elle
strategic
est sur
position.
l'autre côte de l'Atlantique.
It
Elle
is
est le
on the
voisin des États-Unis.
Atlantic coast, which
Elle
makes
est
it a neighbor to the
le trait
US.
d'union
It is
entre
what unites
l'Afrique du Nord
North
et
Africa
l'Afrique subsaharienne.
and Sub-Saharan Africa, or
Et
what
ça,
links
c'est
the
par
two.
rapport à sa position stratégique, mais par rapport
That
à
is
ses
its
ressources.
strategic
Elle a
position,
énormément
but
de ressources.
also in terms
Monsieur
of
le Président,
resources. We have a
nous-
great deal of
Nous avons
resources,
énormément de ressources.
many,
Et
many
nous présentons
resources,
énormément
and
d'opportunités.
we have a lot of opportunities to
d'investissement.
offer in terms of investment.
Nous avons des minerais,
We have
dont des
minerals,
minerais rares, avérés.
rare
Nous avons
earths,
des terres rares.
rare
Nous avons du
minerals.
manganèse.
We have manganese.
Nous avons de l'uranium.
We have uranium.
Et nous avons de très bons indices
And we have
pour le
a
lithium, pour le
good
cobalt.
inclination that we have
Nous sommes le
lithium
deuxième
and other
producteur
minerals.
depuis
We're the
60 ans
second largest producer
en
for the
Afrique
last 60
du
years
fer.
in Africa of iron,
Nous produisons
iron ore.
beaucoup de
We
cuivre.
produce
Et nous
a
avons
lot.
des richesses et des
And
ressources
we
énormes
have a lot of
halieutiques, c'est-à-dire
resources
dans le domaine de
our
de
sea
la mer.
waters, so
Je ne
lots
veux
of
pas être
fishing
long.
and whatnot. I don't want to spend
Mais
too much
nous avons
time on
aussi-
this.
We have to go,
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
but I appreciate it very much. I appreciate it. Maybe we're going to have to go a little bit quicker than this because we have a whole schedule.
He's like,
If I could
okay,
just
bro,
say,
this
you know,
is
your
fucking
name and
crazy.
your country would be great. Thank you, please.
Muito obrigado, Sr. Presidente Trump, e sobretudo
Thank you, Mr.
toca a
President,
mim, a minha pessoa.
and
É a segunda
for
vez
welcome everything.
Estamos
For us, the
convidado-
second time
convidou-me
here
pela
to come
primeira vez quando era primeiro-ministro.
as a guest.
E agora enquanto
The first time we had that meeting in
E
Guiné-Bissau,
não vou alongar muito.
but I will not
A Guiné-Bissau é país
talk
da
so
paz.
much.
E
But
nós
Guinea-Bissau
contribuímos e queremos
is a
acompanhar esta
peaceful
dinâmica,
and
uma paz mundial. Somos pequeno país.
we are a
Nós somos
small
grande
country,
Estado. Não
but
Estado
we are
como
a
os
great
Estados Unidos.
state,
Nossa
not a great
teoria,
state like the United
Não há pequenos
States,
estados, grandes estados, há estados.
but we are
E
a
para
great country
terminar,
as
quero
well.
dizer ao
And
Presidente Trump que
to end,
nós estamos a acompanhar a dinâmica
we
da
are
paz entre a Ucrânia e a
following
Rússia,
your
Médio Oriente,
dynamics
Israel
and the war with Russia and
e podes contar
Ukraine,
com a Guiné-Bissau.
and
Muito obrigado.
you can count on Guinea-Bissau. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Beautiful. Thank you very much. Please, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, let me congratulate you for your recent celebration of your 249th anniversary. We did in Liberia at your embassy. Mr. President, we thank you for this opportunity to be here. Liberia is a longtime friend of the United States, and we believe in your policy of making America great again. And we also go a long way with you in your diplomacy that has to do with economic development and commercial friendship. Liberia has a lot of minerals, and one of the things we ask as good friends for a long time is the opportunity to do a survey of our minerals. And also we are committed to peace, and we've been very lucky within our region. We are a country that have had series of democratic elections, and our country has been cooling down. And also we want to encourage American involvement in the investment in Liberia.
Yeah.
We'd like to see that happen. We want to work with the United States in peace and security within the region because we are committed to that. And we just want to thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, thank you. It's such good English, such beautiful. Where did you learn to speak so beautifully? Where were you educated? Where? In Liberia.
How you doing,
That's
Francis?
very interesting. That's beautiful English.
Sure.
I have people at this table can't speak nearly as well,
Very
and
good, sir. Thank you.
they come from
Okay, what happened to the sound? That ain't on my end. Fix your sound, people. Come on now.
avons changé
liberation,
notre registre de commerce.
we have
Nous avons mis
changed
de la
how
transparence,
we do
des appels
trade.
d'offres.
We've focused on
Pour
transparency
tous ceux qui veulent
and
venir
bids
investir
for
chez nous.
anyone who wants to come invest in our country.
Si vous regardez l'actualité,
If you
nous avons également
follow the
demandé au Gabon de
news, we've
revoir les accords de
also
pêche avec l'Union européenne.
worked on
Parce que nous
agreements
estimons qu'ils
with
n'étaient pas
the
win-win.
European Union, and we wanted to
Et donc, c'est un
review
marché
those because
ouvert.
we didn't think that those
On a
were
pris
win-win
l'engagement de transformer
opportunities.
le
So our market
manganèse
is
sur
open.
place.
We want to
Le manganèse que
process
vous achetez ici
manganese
par l'intermédiaire de la
locally,
société Eramet.
which you
Il vient du
purchase
Gabon.
through a
Je ne sais
company
pas à quel prix vous
called
l'achetez,
Aramet,
mais je suis sûr que vous l'achetez plus cher.
and I'm sure that it's more
Lorsqu'ils le prennent chez nous.
expensive
Pourquoi ne pas venir
compared
investir
to
sur place et
when
le
you
transformer
can
sur place?
come and buy it directly
Pour le
from
transformer,
us.
nous avons besoin
In order to do
de
this
8 à
local
10 gigas
processing, we need
d'électricité.
8 to 10
C'est encore un marché
gigawatts
ouvert
of electricity.
pour toutes les
Again,
sociétés américaines
this
qui
is
veulent
an
venir
open
investir chez
bid.
nous dans
Any
l'électricité.
American company that wants to invest
C'est un
in
domaine à
electricity in Gabon
Nous avons
is
aussi en matière de
welcome to
défense,
take advantage of that opportunity.
oui,
Now, looking at defense,
le golfe de Guinée
the Gulf of
qui fait
Guinea
face à la
is an
piraterie
issue.
maritime.
There is maritime
Et nous devons le
piracy
stabiliser
in
ensemble.
that area, and we want to
Vous
work
avez parlé que
together
vous
to
avez des meilleurs
stabilize.
équipements.
Said you had the
Oui,
best
nous les
equipment,
souhaitons.
the best military equipment,
Pour
and that's what
repousser
we'd like to
la
have,
piraterie
so
maritime
that
dans
we
notre
can
région.
stop maritime piracy in the
Seuls,
Gulf
nous ne
of
pouvons
Guinea.
pas.
We can't do it
On a
alone.
besoin d'un partenaire
We
fiable,
need a
robuste,
reliable and strong
s'engage
partner that is
avec du
committed
concret.
and that takes
Et moi, je vous aime parce que vous
real
êtes
steps, real
pragmatique.
action. We also need to be
Vous êtes
pragmatic,
concret.
and that's what you
Moi, en tant que
are.
général, je le suis aussi.
And I'm a general,
J'aime les
and I
choses qui
am
vont
too.
vite.
I'm pragmatic. I like it when
Le
things
pays, il est libre,
move
il est
quickly.
ouvert à tout le monde.
Our country is
Venez
free,
investir, ne
open
soyez pas les
to one
derniers
and all.
à venir
You are
frapper au portes de
welcome
l'Afrique.
to come and
Sinon, d'autres
invest.
viendront à votre place.
Otherwise, other
C'est ce que
countries
je tenais à
might
vous dire.
come
Merci.
instead of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good job. Thank you very much.
Maybe not
Appreciate it.
Sweden.
Okay.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you so much,
Je voudrais d'abord
Mr. President.
vous remercier pour
I would like
l'invitation.
to thank you for this
L'honneur que nous
invitation.
avons
It
aujourd'hui
is an honor
concernant
for
particulièrement
us
d'être à la Maison Blanche
to be
et pour
here
pouvoir
at the
échanger
White
avec
House
vous
and to have this
sur
opportunity to
le
speak
nouveau
with
cadre de
you
partenariat que
about
vous
the
voulez
new partnership
définir avec l'Afrique
that you are putting in
concernant
place with
particulièrement
Africa,
les investissements.
particularly for
Mais avant, je voudrais
investment.
saluer votre
I
engagement
also
pour
wanted
la
to
paix dans le
commend
monde.
you for your commitment to peace throughout the
L'incroyable
world
succès
and
diplomatique
the
que vous avez
incredible
réussi
diplomatic
à l'est de la
success
RDC, comme
that
mes
you
collègues l'ont
had
souligné.
with the
Vous
DRC,
avez
as
dit
my
que ça a
colleagues
ça a
mentioned.
duré,
You
que
said
ça
that
a
this
fait beaucoup de
put an
dégâts,
end to
de
a
victimes.
long war
Heureusement
that
que vous êtes
claimed
là
many
à cette
lives.
période,
And
30 années après,
thankfully,
pour mettre
you
fin
were
à ce
here to
conflit.
put an end to this
Et je
30-year
voudrais vous
war.
dire
I
le
also
soutien de
wanted
l'ensemble de
to
l'Afrique dans les
express that
initiatives
Africa
contribuant
supports
à ramener
all
la paix au
efforts
Soudan,
to bring
en
back
Libye
peace to Sudan,
et
Libya,
au Sahel.
and in the
Monsieur
Sahel.
le Président, vous avez compris
Mr.
que
President,
les affaires ne
as you've
prospèrent que dans un
seen,
environnement
you can
de
only
paix et de
do
sécurité.
business when there is
Et
peace
vous êtes
and
un bâtisseur de
security,
paix partout
and
dans le monde
you build peace
pour rendre ce
everywhere
climat
in the
d'investissement
world
favorable.
so that there can be better
Le
investments.
monde entier vous en sera particulièrement
The
reconnaissant.
entire world is grateful
Concernant
to
le
you for
Sénégal,
this.
que
Now,
je
with
dirige
respect
depuis
to
bientôt
my country,
15
Senegal,
mois ou
I've
16
been
mois,
president for some 15,
je
16
voudrais,
months
parlant
now,
d'affaires, rassurer
and I want
l'ensemble des
to
investisseurs américains sur
reassure
la
all
stabilité
American
politique du
investors
pays
about our country's
et le
political
contexte
stability
favorable du cadre
and
réglementaire que nous
our
sommes en train
favorable
davantage de
regulatory
parfaire pour qu'il
environment,
soit
which we are
plus propice à
continuously
l'investissement.
improving upon
Et
in
je
order to
voudrais juste
attract more
parler
investment.
de deux projets
I
qui me
wanted
semblent
to
être une
speak
opportunité
about two
exceptionnelle.
projects that I think
Pour le
are an
potentiel du
exceptional
pays,
opportunity.
je voudrais m'en référer
I
aux
will
données de l'US Ecological Survey,
speak about
qui
the U.S.
peut dire
Ecological
le
Survey,
potentiel
which can help
minéral
assess
de notre pays qui est important.
the
Et
potential
grâce à une
of the
entreprise
minerals
américaine,
in our
nous avons
country.
découvert du
And
pétrole et
thanks
du
to
gaz.
American companies, we've been able
Et il y
to
a une
discover
opportunité
oil and
exceptionnelle
gas.
avec 950 milliards de mètres cubes de gaz
some
qui attendent d'être
950
exploités.
billion
Et
cubic
cela contribuera du côté de notre pays à
meters
renforcer
of
l'économie,
gas
mais aussi
that
à
we
participer
can
à la
tap
sécurité
into
énergétique
in order
mondiale.
to
Et c'est une
support our
entreprise américaine qui
economy.
nous a permis
And
de découvrir
again,
ça en
here
espèce
we were
cosmos.
able to do this with
Un
an
autre
American
projet que je
company.
voudrais aussi,
Another
sur lequel je
project I'd like to
voudrais
mention,
inviter
and
les
again, I would
investisseurs
like to
américains
invite American
à
investors
s'engager, c'est un
to
projet
take
d'une
part in this.
cité digitale pour laquelle nous
It's for a
avons
digital city.
identifié un espace en plein
We
cœur de Dakar,
identified a
une vue
space within
imprenable sur
the
la
city
mer
of
sur
Dakar.
40
It
hectares,
has
qui
it's on
aujourd'hui est mieux
some
placé
40
que les
hectares,
entreprises
and
américaines de la
this
tech pour faire de
is
cette
a great opportunity for American
de
tech
Dakar
companies
une
to
cité
come in
technologique ouverte
and
vers
make
l'Afrique et
Dakar a
accompagner la
tech
modernisation
city open
technologique de
to
l'Afrique.
Africa.
Je me demandais bien quel était votre secret pour
I
résoudre toutes
was
ces crises
wondering
complexes.
what your
Quelqu'un m'a dit
secret
que vous êtes un
was
excellent
for
champion de golf qui
resolving all
demande
these complex crises, and I know you are a
précision
tremendous golf player.
et bref, les qualités
Golf
qu'il faut pour
requires
être un grand
concentration
leader.
and precision,
Le
qualities that also
Sénégal
make for a
a
great
des
leader.
opportunités exceptionnelles à
Senegal
offrir
has exceptional
pour tout ce qui est hôtellerie
opportunities
et tourisme.
to
Et
offer,
pourquoi pas penser
including in
à
the area of tourism.
aussi investir dans
So
l'hôtellerie avec un
perhaps
parcours de golf qui
an
serait
investment
situé
could be
à
made
6
in a
heures
golf course
de New
in
York, 4
Senegal.
heures de Miami,
It would just be
5 heures de
6
l'Europe et
hours
8
by
heures
flight from
des
New
pays
York,
du Golfe qui pourraient se
from
retrouver là-bas
Miami, from
pour que vous
Europe,
puissiez être
or
challengé et
from
montrer
the
davantage
Gulf,
votre talent de
and
bon
that would be
golfeur.
an
Merci beaucoup.
opportunity for you to show off your skills on the golf course too. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's very nice. It's some way to show off my skills. It's a long trip to show off my skill, but that's really nice. And he's led a very interesting life. He looks like a very young person. He's a little older than he looks, but a fantastic job. He was treated very unfairly by his government, and he prevailed. And so congratulations on that. Really, congratulations. It was a great job. And you've all done a fantastic job. And so we'll be talking to you as we have the meal. Do you want to ask any questions, please? Where's my reporter from Africa? There you are. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Mr. President.
Very famous in Africa. Okay.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Miss, I have one question for the African presidents and one question for President Trump. As you can see, Mr. President Trump, all the African presidents are very happy with your efforts to bring peace in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. My question to you is, today you are making history by receiving 5 African presidents and showing the interest of the United States to collaborate and to work close with the African nations. African continent is watching, African youth is watching, and this new approach that your administration is taking to deal with African nation, not only based on help, but in doing business that everybody can win, is really much appreciated for all the Africans. My question is, are you planning, Mr. President, in the future to travel to Africa to see firsthand all those countries in Africa, all those potential that those countries have? And for the African leaders, as you can see, President Trump is working to bring peace, not only in Africa, but also in the world. Are you all considering to nominate President Trump for a Nobel Prize Peace?
That's a very nice reporter. I got to meet her 2 weeks ago when we had
your
the
Nobel Prize.
Congo and Rwanda, and we had some other people up from Africa. And
Hit the like, hit the
that was
subscribe,
the first
everybody.
time, but that's very nice. I appreciate the questions. Very nice, actually. Would you like to, at some point, I would like to go to Africa. Absolutely. We're going to see what the schedule is, but at some point, I would like to do that very much. Would you like to give a fast answer, please?
Thank you very much. Of course, we are supporting this.
Microphone, please.
Yeah, microphone, please.
Of course, we on on soutient cette dynamique pour la paix.
We are
pas oublier
in favor of this dynamic for
Nous aussi, nous
peace.
sommes très engagés pour la
We are
paix.
very
Et moi, que vous
committed
parle, je
on
suis le premier
peace.
chef d'État
I am the first
parti en
head of
Russie,
state who went
parti
to
en
Russia
Ukraine
and who went to
quand la guerre
Ukraine
est débutée.
both since the start of the
J'étais
war.
président en exercice de la CEDEAO.
I
C'est le premier temps que j'ai
held the
négocié
presidency of
avec
ECOWAS,
J'ai parti
and
voir Poutine. 4 heures de temps.
we spoke
Je
for
suis parti en
4
Ukraine.
hours, and then I went to Ukraine.
J'ai fait 12 heures de train pour parler
I spent 12 hours
au
on a
président
train
Zelensky.
to
Mais
speak
là,
to
bon,
President
le poids de
Zelensky.
président Trump, c'est
But
une
now
autre
the
chose.
weight of
On est là, nous
President Trump
tous,
is something else
avec vous
altogether.
ensemble,
We are with you. We
pour voir
are
comment on peut aider
behind you to
pour
see
ramener
what we
cette
can
paix que
do
je pense.
to help
Avec la
bring
guerre,
peace
personne gagne.
back. No one wins when there's war.
Donc, vous avez notre soutien
So you have our support
pour qu'on puisse amener la paix.
so that we
Merci
can
beaucoup.
bring peace back. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Go ahead, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président Trump. Merci,
Thank you, Mr. President Trump.
Mesdames
Thank
de la
you
presse et messieurs.
for
Le
your
prix
questions.
lauréat pour le prix Nobel de la
I'm all
paix,
good, man.
je ne
Yeah.
vois pas d'objection.
A
sans
Nobel
être
Peace
prétentieux,
Prize,
je
while
pense que
I
le
don't
président Trump le
see
mérite
any problem
pour
with
les
it, I
efforts déjà
think
qu'il a fait pour la
that
paix à travers le
President
monde.
Trump
Et je
deserves
me
it
situe
for
également
all
dans
the
la zone,
efforts
notamment celle de la
that
CAC,
he's worked
où il a
on.
ramené la paix
And
entre la RDC
he
et le Rwanda.
brought
C'est ma zone,
peace
la CAC.
back
Nous sommes
in the
revenus à
SEAC
plusieurs fois entre
region.
l'État. C'est un
That
accord
is
qu'on n'a
my
jamais pu
region, the
obtenir
region
dans la
where
CAC.
DRC and
Aujourd'hui, c'est le président Trump, un
Rwanda
président d'ailleurs, qui ramène
signed
la
a
paix
deal. And so he is
dans la
now
CAC.
bringing
Donc, je
peace
pense
back
qu'il
into a region where that was
mérite ce
never
prix Nobel.
possible. So I believe that he
C'est
does
mon avis.
deserve a Nobel Peace Prize. That is my opinion on this.
Well, thank you very much. It's very, very nice. Thank you. I didn't know I'd be treated this nicely. This is great. We could do this all day long. Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Mr. President, I believe that we have to continue to support Americans in the strength to be able to bring about peace in the world. America is a melting point and also a country that we all look forward to. And I want to encourage you, because without peace, we can't have a world to live in. And we stand with you on that.
Right. Thank you. Well said. Please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for your question. Very important question indeed.
Excusez-moi de dire que
Forgive me for
malheureusement, je
saying
ne
this,
suis
but
pas spécialiste, je ne
unfortunately,
connais pas comment ça passe.
I don't really understand. I don't know how things work when it comes to Nobel Prizes, but I can guarantee you that Mauritania would never be opposed to President Trump receiving a Nobel Peace Prize, because he's already working very hard in favor of peace throughout the world, with no distinction, no regard to what continent it's on, and he's working on areas where there are tensions everywhere, and he's committed towards peace, and our world needs more peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Je pense que
Thank you
sera
very
la
much.
décision du jury.
The jury
Ce ne
will
sera pas le
decide.
vote des pays.
It's not a matter of voting
Mais ce qui est sûr,
amongst
c'est
our countries,
qu'aujourd'hui,
but
les
what is
états
for
de
sure is that
service et les résultats engrangés
the
en si peu de
results and the
délai de
work
temps,
with this.
done in such a short amount of
pour
time
sa-
Hit one in the
pour sa-
chat
pour
if you'd rather
l'attribution
watch this
de
other press
ce
conference.
prix-là en sa
that
faveur. Et je pense
you
que
would
le
be a
jury
good
voit ça et le
recipient.
monde entier
And I'm
voit
sure
ça et
that the
apprécie ça.
jury sees that and
Et
the rest of the
j'espère
world
que
sees it as well and
quand ça arrivera,
understands it.
tout le monde trouvera
When the time comes, I
à
think
considérer que ça a été mérité.
everyone will
Pas-
see that it is a deserved
Félicitations déjà pour ce qui a été
prize.
déjà fait et qui plaide en cette
Congratulations
faveur-là.
on
Je
what
pense que si
you've
c'était
done
des
so far.
sondages, vous
If
considérez que vous êtes bien
we
loin
took a
devant.
poll, I think you would be very far ahead in those polls.
Thank you very much. Very nice. All of you, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Peter?
Thank you, President Trump. James Comey and John Brennan now under criminal investigation related
There
to the
we
Trump
go.
Russia probe. Do you
Real
want to see
talk.
these two guys behind bars?
Well, I know nothing about it other than what I read today, but I will tell you, I think they're very dishonest people. I think they're crooked as hell. And maybe they have to pay a price for that. I believe they are truly bad people and dishonest people. So whatever happens, happens.
And now, a few weeks after the strikes that you ordered on the nuclear facilities in Iran, there is an Iranian official who says you, President Trump, have done something that he can no longer sunbathe in Mar-a-Lago. As you lie there with your stomach to the sun, a small drone might hit you in the navel. It's very simple. Do you think that's a real threat?
What?
And when is the last time you went sunbathing anyway?
It's been a long
Crazy.
time. It's been a long
What?
time. I don't know. Maybe I was around 7 or so. I'm not too big into it. Yeah, I guess it's a threat. I'm not sure it's a threat, actually, but perhaps it is.
And on one other subject, 2 Democratic senators now, Cory Booker and Alex Padilla, have a new bill out. They want to require CBP and ICE officers to have legible IDs, and they don't want CBP or ICE officers covering their faces. Would you ever sign that?
Well, they wouldn't be saying that if they didn't hate our country, and they obviously do. I'm surprised that they would do it, knowing a little bit about them. I don't know them well, but these officers are doing a tremendous job. They're great patriots. If you expose them because of statements like have been made by Democrats and others on the left, usually, mostly, I think probably exclusively, you put them in great danger, tremendous danger. And it's sort of funny when people picket in front of Columbia, in front of Harvard, and they have masks on, more than masks. I mean, you can't see anything. Nobody complains about that. But when a patriot who works for ICE or Border Patrol puts a mask on so that they won't recognize him and his family, so they can lead a little bit of a normal life after having worked so hard and so dangerously, there's a problem with that. So they have this is the problem with the Democrats. They have a lot of bad things going on in their heads. They've really become they've lost their confidence, number one, and they've become somewhat deranged. I want to do whatever's necessary to protect our great law enforcement people, and they are right at the top of the list.
And your agriculture department also announced this week that they are going to start limiting Chinese ownership of American farmland. Why do you think that the Chinese have been buying up all this farmland in our country so close to military installations?
Well, I don't want to get into that. I have a very good relationship with President Xi. We're going to see, and I'm going to, they're going to be making a recommendation to me, but we have a very good relationship.
You're not going to answer that question?
They're paying a lot of tariffs to the United States now.
I need to know.
And so I'm not going to get into that right now.
What?
Yeah, please.
You always talk. Tell me
Yesterday,
why.
the Wall Street Journal reported that the White House was weighing whether to send another Patriot air defense system to Ukraine. Can you confirm that reporting?
They would like it. They've asked for it. They're very rare indeed, because a lot of systems have been sent to Ukraine. But they would like to. I know they made the request. We're going to have to take a look at it. Very expensive system. It's a shame that we have to spend so much money on a war that would have never happened if I were president. That's a terrible, terrible war over there, and truly a shame. It's very sad. When you talk about a system like that, highly sophisticated, tremendous amount of money, and they're doing it because they want to prevent death. They're getting hit hard, very hard. So we're looking at it.
Also on Russia. As well, Ukraine was hit by over 700 drones sent by Russia last night. What's your response to that?
Well, I've been sort of letting people know I'm not happy about what's going on. It's a war that should have never happened. It should not happen now. They're losing. Now it's up. I've been saying 5,000. Now it's up to 7,000. Think of it, 7,000 people a week on both sides. 7,000 people, young, mostly military people, young souls are dead and dying, and it should be stopped. It should be stopped. Very sad to see what's happening. Yes, please.
Sir, can you explain how you calculated your latest round of tariffs? Was there a formula that was used? And do you expect any of these countries to face tariffs as well?
The formula was a formula based on common sense, based on deficits, based on how we've been treated. over the years, and based on raw numbers. And we're going to have a couple of more coming out today. Brazil, as an example, has been not good to us, not good at all. We're going to be releasing a Brazil number, I think, later on this afternoon or tomorrow morning. But they're based on very substantial facts and also past history. You look at the past history, we never had anybody in the White House that understood the numbers or were into it like I have. You know, we've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, hundreds of billions, and we haven't even started yet. And it's going to be a great thing for our country. I think it's going to be a fair thing for the world. And we really haven't had too many complaints because I'm keeping them at a very low number, very conservative, as you would say, number. And we haven't had, I'm sure they will be complaining at certain points, but we haven't had complaints. We've been treated very unfairly by both friend and foe. And friend has treated us very badly. It's not even believable that for so many years, you know, I was using tariffs in my first administration. We had the most successful financially administration that there's ever been. This is going to be much better. But we got cut short with the COVID because I didn't think it was appropriate when, you know, Italy, Spain, it's the horror show that a lot of the countries went through. So I cut it a little bit short, but we took in hundreds of billions of dollars and we had the most successful term ever from a president financially. But this is going to be much more successful. Yes, please.
Do you expect any of the countries here to face tariffs as well?
I haven't thought of it, but I don't know. Let's see, I like him, and him. No, I don't think so. Not too much. It's very good. These are. Yes,
Thank you for taking our questions, Mr. President.
Okay.
You talked about the amount of external revenue the country has brought in thanks to your tariffs. Can you talk about how these hundreds of billions of dollars that are getting brought in will help grow the country, and what do you hope to put it towards?
Well, bigger than the tariffs actually are the fact that when you charge the tariffs at a certain point, they say, well, we can't pay those tariffs. It doesn't make economic sense. These are wealthy countries, and they or their companies will come into our country and build, and that's what's actually happening. If you had a very low tariff, there'd be no incentive to do that. If you have no tariff, like we used to have, which is so stupid, it's not even believable. But then obviously they make their product, the product in their country. They have the jobs, they have the income, they have the taxes, they have everything, and they just send it into us, and it's jobs that we wouldn't get. Now the wheel is turned, and what we're doing is we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars, money that we've never seen before. But more important than that, we have a lot of people that would rather not have to pay that. So they're coming in and they're building plants. AI, I mean, we're leading everybody, including China, by a lot with AI. They're building their own plant. You heard me say yesterday, they're building their own electric generating plants to go along with the factories or plants that they're building. If they want to do that, we're getting them fast approvals, very fast turnarounds. They're using mostly natural gas to start off, but they're using coal. They have the right to use coal. They have the right to use nuclear. Nuclear has come a long way in the last 5 years. So we're getting them very fast approvals. We have factories and plants building at a level that we've never had in this country before. Yeah.
And secondly, a study from the Council of Economic Advisors. You put it on Truth Social yesterday. It showed that your assessment that tariffs would slow inflation was accurate, and that the prices of imported has fallen. That your assessment was right, the critics were wrong. Why do so-called experts continually misread your economic policy, sir?
Well, it's not the experts, it's the fake news and a combination of that and the Democrats. I saw an ad on television today on Fox, and it was some ad about, Trump has raised costs. It's the opposite. I actually put out a statement. I brought down costs. I brought down the cost of groceries. I brought down the cost of energy, tremendously groceries. If you remember my first week in office, the press was screaming at me about the cost of eggs. They were 4 times higher than they were just a short time ago. That was caused by Biden and stupid policies, and we got that down. And by Easter, it was normalized, and now it's actually even at a lower price. So when I see an ad like that, it's always good to respond. I feel you have to respond. It was an ad that Things are more costly. No, they're much less costly. Yesterday, $1.99 a gallon. There's 3 states were selling gasoline at $1.99. You haven't seen that for a long time. And I brought costs way down. Just about every cost. I can't think of a cost that went up, but just about every cost. So what they do is they lie. I mean, they take ads. You'd almost think that the advertising station would stop it because they know it's wrong. It's such a lie. All you can do is say it's a lie and explain it. I guess I have the ability to explain it at conferences like this, so I like to take advantage of it and do it. But costs are substantially down under the Trump administration. And as you know, Biden had the highest inflation, I believe, in the history of our country. They say 48 years, but regardless, I think it was really the highest in the history of our country. And they were up to numbers that nobody ever saw before. And we have inflation now totally under control. We have a Fed chairman that, if he was doing his job properly, would lower interest rates. But we're bullying through even that. We're doing so well, it's not having that kind of an impact on us. But you want to see a rocket ship? We should have the lowest interest rates, because without us, there's nothing. And we have a strong country now, and we're taking in a lot of money. And other countries aren't even complaining. They got away with murder. They took advantage of a lot of very stupid people that sat in the seat, very stupid people, or people that didn't understand business or something was going on. But hard to believe that they got away with it for so many years. But now, and I'm treating them very fairly. Again, we have countries with tremendous deficits with us, where we have, where we essentially lose a lot of money. And we are changing that around very rapidly. And I think it's about time somebody did it. Yeah, please.
So yesterday, you said that you were not sure who ordered the munitions halted to Ukraine. Have you since been able to figure that out?
Well, I haven't thought about it because we're looking at Ukraine right now and munitions, but I have not gone into it.
What does it say that such a big decision could be made inside your government without you knowing?
I would know. If a decision was made, I will know. I'll be the first to know. In fact, most likely I'd give the order, but I haven't done that yet. Yeah, please.
How your meeting with Netanyahu went over the last couple of days, and how realistic do you think a ceasefire is this week?
Well, we're talking about Gaza for the most part. I think we have a chance this week or next week. Not definitely. There's nothing definite about war and Gaza and all of the other places that we all deal with so much. But there's a very good chance that we'll have a settlement, an agreement of signed this week and maybe next week if not.
The African Growth and Opportunity Act, which has been central to many sub-Saharan countries having access to the US market, that's due to expire in September. Are you hoping to extend that beyond it?
Well, we'll take a look at that. Yes, please.
Thank you. That's up to Congress to take a first crack at. We know that program's been in place for about 20 years. And at the end result of that, we see a lot of other countries operating in Africa. We still see a lot of tariff and non-tariff barriers in Africa. So I think any discussion about that act would also have to think about how we address those kinds of barriers.
Yeah, Peter.
President Trump, in Alvarado, Texas, a few days ago, 10 people wearing all black allegedly set off fireworks outside an ICE office to lure the officers out so they could ambush them, shoot at them. They had guns and vests and two-way radios. Do you think that this was an isolated incident, or do you think there's a national threat of a left-wing militia that is targeting ICE and CBP?
Well, I think you have some very stupid people in the left who have some money that are making it available to these people, because you look at the guns they had, they were brand new. You look at even the clothing they were wearing, it looked like it just came out of some military shop. So you have some very stupid people that if anything ever happened, they'd be the first to go. They don't understand that. They'd be the first to go. They'd be the first ones hit. But there is money being put behind people. When you look at the weapons they have, the newness of the weapons, rifles that just came out and they have the latest model. So there's something going on, and we'll get to the bottom of it.
And what do you think the penalty should be for these people who are, if they are found guilty, for people
Very
who
stiff.
shoot at ICE officers?
Very, very stiff. Very stiff. A long time in jail, a long time. And one got hit yesterday in the neck. And he fortunately is going to be okay, but he got hit yesterday in the neck. No good.
And what would you think if I read you a quote from a lawmaker who says about ICE to abolish it, to treat them as criminals or anything that is inappropriate and outrageous? I told you that that was Democrat John Fetterman.
Well, it's, by the way, I assume when you read that, because you paused in the middle, you're going to have to read that again without the pause. Could you read that again, please?
To abolish it, to treat them as criminals or anything that's inappropriate and outrageous.
So he's saying that to treat the people that did the shooting is... Oh, okay, good. Because the way you read it, it really was the opposite. That's okay. That's all right. I think that's what he meant. No, the new John Fetterman is exactly what you said. He's right. He's right. And we have to protect our police officers, and we will. And we have been. If you saw the stats released by the FBI the other day, the murder rate's way down, the lowest it's been in a long time. And that took place over the last 6 months. For the last 6 months, murder, it's a hell of a subject to have to talk about, but murder is way down at almost getting to be modern day records. So that's despite the fact that we have a lot of people that came into the country that shouldn't be here.
Mr. President?
Yes, please.
So 2 questions, one on tariffs, the other on the IRS. On tariffs, China is reportedly softening their impact on U.S. tariffs in Africa, announcing last month that they would halt charges on imports for nearly all of its African partners.
Good.
Does this move by China influence your thinking, your approach to tariffs on the continent?
Well, we treat Africa great in many different ways, including with tariffs. But, parts of Africa charge us tremendous tariffs, as you know. And they're going to be dropping those tariffs. They've already informed me they're going to be dropping those tariffs. But we treat Africa far better than China or anybody else, anyplace else. Yeah.
And on the IRS says that churches can now endorse political candidates. What's your reaction to this? And how do you expect this to influence some of the work that's afoot on the continent? There's a lot of American churches that are missionaries doing missionary work on the continent. Do you support that?
I love the fact that churches can endorse a political candidate. I think so, because we have a lot of respect for the people that lead the church, for the pastors and the ministers and the rabbis and the all different leaders, all different religions, and people respect those people. And I think there's nothing wrong. It was a very big penalty if that took place just a little while ago. They had a thing called the Johnson Act, and it was a very big penalty. I think it's great if a pastor, minister, priest, rabbi, and we could very much go into your religion, by the way, which is something that people are having great respect for throughout the world. If somebody of faith wants to endorse, I think it's something that I'd like to hear. And I can guarantee you the people that they're with every Saturday or Sunday or whatever it is they're with, they want to hear from these people. And it was a very severe penalty. Those people were not allowed to speak up. Now they're allowed to speak up. No, I think it's terrific.
Your administration took new actions against Harvard University today. Are you still optimistic about reaching a deal with the university?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Harvard's been very bad, totally anti-Semitic. And they'll absolutely reach a deal. Peter?
I just got a text from our colleague, John Roberts. He says that we are now reporting the guy who was arrested in the Alvarado, Texas incident for tampering with the evidence was a green card recipient under the Biden administration and a prior DACA recipient. What do you think of that?
It's very sad. It's very bad. A lot of them are here. We came in 21 million. I think it's higher than that, by the way, but they say 21 million people came in. Many of them are criminals. Many of them are murderers. 11,888 is what they say are murderers. And they came in through open border policies, no checking, no vetting, no nothing. And we have a lot of that. And despite that, we have crime down, which is pretty amazing.
And this is a
And
long
say hello
meeting,
to
so
John. Say hello to John Roberts.
I will. I'm sure he's watching this right now. a lot of news has broken since we've been in here. Axios says a secret White House meeting between Steve Witkoff, Ron Dermer, and a Qatari envoy on Tuesday led to significant progress in the negotiations over the Gaza hostage and ceasefire deal. What can you tell us about this
It's very
secret meeting?
possible. I will tell you, we're getting very close to a deal. I don't know if it's secret or not secret, but it doesn't matter to me. Secret's fine if it gets us to where we want to be. We want to have a ceasefire. We want to have peace. We want to get the hostages back. And I think we're close to doing it. Okay. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good job, everybody. Huh?
Okay,
Good job.
I'll go ahead and put on the one from earlier. We'll continue it. That was a good show. I don't know. We'll try to watch this whole thing if we can.
These parents were picking up their kids' belongings out of the mud, and 65 people, but that were, they will emergency responders. Nim Kidd is his emergency management director, who is incredible and has immediately worked with the local first responders to get help to individuals and get them evacuated, put requests into me. We deployed, sir, right away, as you know, because you and I were talking a lot during this time, the Coast Guard. We also had some assets out of Customs and Border Protection. Our board TAC teams went in and helped with rescues and clearing debris so that we could get roads open and people get the help that they need. I think when I got there the most, sir, that day, as soon as I arrived on site, was getting a briefing from all the emergency responders, was just how unified they were in focusing on the fact that we're there to save lives. They were there to rescue people, find people who were still alive, and to reunify them with their family members. We as a federal government don't manage these disasters. The state does. We come in and support them. And that's exactly what we did here in this situation. FEMA went to an enhanced level immediately. But as soon as you signed the major disaster declaration, we were able to get them resources and dollars right away, just like you envisioned through state block grants, to help them with cleanup. And we're still there in presence, and FEMA's been deployed, and we're cutting through the paperwork of the old FEMA, streamlining it much like your vision of how FEMA should operate. And it's been a much better response to help these families get through this terrible situation. We still are looking for people. We're still looking for a lot of little girls and other family members that were camping along that river. And they will continue until they find every single person, and we will continue to help them and assist in that. I was surprised when I got there at the camp that day, right after this happened, the parents that were there, the parents that were looking for their children and picking up their daughter's stuffed animals out of the mud and finding their daughter's shoe that might be laying in the cabin, and just hugging and comforting people matters a lot. I'm extremely grateful for God's hand in that whole situation, because hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people were saved. And this is a time for all of us in this country to remember that we were created to serve each other. God created us to take care of each other. And that when we do that, we are happier, we are more fulfilled, and we can walk alongside people on their worst day and help them get through it and come out the other side, knowing that we can continue to live a life that God has purposed for us. So they're grateful for you. Several times the day after the flooding, you and Melania were on the phone with me, and I want to thank you for that. And that meant the world. I was able to tell many of those folks that I had been visiting with you, and that you had said, whatever they need, Christy, let's deploy it and get it down there and be helpful. And on Sunday, when the families were waiting at a church to identify their children's bodies, Franklin Graham and I called in and prayed with the families and read some scripture with them. And he was incredible in making himself available to that as well. We'll be back down there in a couple of days and continue to do all we can. But this is an unprecedented event. It really is. There's been tragedies like this around the country, but everyone is unique in different situations. And, the response the federal government had supporting the state through this, I'm proud of the people that stepped up and immediately came. The Coast Guard, when they came in, they had a difficult time even getting the aircraft in and landed. They had to try several times in the weather to get it in and deploy. And I think we've heard about, our one Coast Guard member that was responsible for saving over 165 people, but that entire crew did incredible work. And all the first responders there did incredible work. And I know people are getting tired now, but they're getting reinforcements and volunteers are showing up. And I just want to commend the governor and his team for being the leaders. And they're so thankful that you're letting them make the decisions and manage the response like it should be. And then us supporting them with the resources of the federal government. We've already deployed dollars to the state, much like the block grants that you've talked about. Right. So they're grateful for that, sir.
There's never been a wave like this outside of the breaking of a dam. Because this was almost a wave that ended up being 30 feet high, more actually. Now with the dam, you can understand it, but this approached almost with that speed. When you see a dam break, it's not a pretty sight. It wipes out everything. And this is the kind of thing that built up so fast. And it's happened 2 or 3 times before over the years, but not to this extent. But tell them when you met the father who was picking up the daughter's clothing. And
I had walked through the cabin where all the little girls died. And I had kind of fallen apart in there, but I walked out of the cabin and a gentleman was standing there and he said, that man over there needs a hug. And so I walked over to him and I hugged him and I said, do you work here? And he said, no, my little girl was in that cabin. And he said, and I just found her best friend about an hour and a half ago. She had passed away. And he just fell apart. And so then we just hugged and talked for probably an hour about that. But then there was the grandpa was there looking for his granddaughter as well. There was a dad there of one of the counselors. The counselor was alive, but she was dealing with the fact that she had hung on to some of these girls and was trying to keep them out of the floodwaters and had gotten hit by something and had lost 2 of the girls and wasn't able to hang on to them and was going to live the rest of her life thinking about that moment when she wasn't able to hang on to these girls. But these parents were picking up their kids' belongings out of the mud and throughout the camp and putting them in bags. And then one of the dads said, I knew 50 of these girls here. So I knew that was her dress and my daughter's friend's dress. So he was picking it up and putting it in a bag to return to her parents. And so it was and then the director was there comforting everybody who had lost his father the night before too. And he was still there trying to facilitate all of these parents grieving their children and find them. So the strength of people is incredible. One of the things that I asked there that day was that they all have escorts or counselors when parents come in. So from that point, that when they came into the camp, that they have somebody with them when they're going and looking for their children's belongings or looking for their children. And so very emotional, but also just so tragic.
The relationship with Texas and the governor has been obviously very good for years with me, but the relationship with Texas and their first responders and us with our first responders and lots of other people. And we brought in a lot of helicopters from all over. And we had a lot of helicopters. It was actually dangerous, a lot of helicopters up there, but they were real pros and they were responsible for pulling out a lot of people. And we got them there fast. And Texas had some good ones too. But the response has been incredible. And the fact that we got along so well, I don't know, I don't even think that's a political thing, but we got along so well and it was so unified. I think a lot of lives have been saved. That could have been as bad as it was, and you could have lost double or triple. This thing was just really horrible. Well, congratulations on a great job and appreciate it. I know you're going down. I'll be going down on Friday with First Lady, who will be taking a trip, and we don't want to get in anyone's way because that's what happens. The president goes and everyone's around focused on. I don't want anyone to focus on us. but it's possible they could have somebody saved still. You know, there's a lot of areas. It's a big area, and you know, it's probably unlikely at this point, but there could be. I mean, they're thinking there could be the possibility, but what a tragic situation. A good job, and we'll see you on Friday, and we'll finish out the day here. I think you've been reading a lot about it's a terrible topic when you talk about financial after this, but we have a big country and we've been doing very well. The tariffs, as you know, are starting to come in at record levels. Tremendous amounts of money are coming in to our country. We never did that before. We're not used to it. We only have tariffs going out. We only adhere to the rules of other nations who charge us tremendous tariffs because we were led by stupid people or people without any business sense. And I'd like to ask God, you could maybe talk a little bit about how well we're doing with regard to the money coming in. And the big money will start coming in on August 1st. I think it was made clear today by the letters that were sent out yesterday and today. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. We will have taken in about $100 billion in tariff income thus far this year, and that's with the tariffs, the major tariff not having started till the second quarter. So we could expect that could be well over $300 billion by the end of the year. We don't agree with CBO scoring, but for those who do, the CBO scored tariff income over the next 10 years at 2.8 trillion, which we think is probably low. And sir, under your leadership, we're witnessing.
And they gave us no credit during this last little, the great, big, beautiful bill. I always use the word great. I add that to it because it really is what it is. It's never been anything like it, actually. And I want to thank all the Republicans that voted for it. And I want to, scold the Democrats because they're voting for tax cuts. They're voting for no tax on tips, no tax on social security, no tax on overtime, and many, many other things far more important than that. Great health care. And frankly, every Democrat should lose their election because it was purely political vote. They were told not to vote for it. So think of it. We got 218-2. And then with the Senate, we had 50-3. Democrats didn't vote at all. Not one positive vote with all of the good things in there. Economic development money, tremendous border money. Now you're loaded up on the border. And I don't think we're going to need so much of it because we had zero come in last month, so I'm not sure how much of it we want to spend. You may think about that. You may actually think about saving a lot of money because the wall's been largely built, and it obviously worked. But you may want to think about that. But so I think it's incredible when I watch the Democrats, and they have standard lines like they had Russia, Russia, Russia. They had the laptop from hell. It all came from Russia. They make things up and they go with it and they feed it to you people in many cases. And they said, here's a line. And I hear the new line is death. Oh, it's death. Everyone's going to die. There's nothing to do with that. In fact, we're saving our country. Death is from allowing 25 million people into our country, of which 3 or 4 are stone cold, hard criminals. 11,888 are murderers, many of them committing more than one murder. That's death, and the Democrats did that. Joe Biden did that by allowing people to come in here just totally unchecked, unvetted, open borders. The whole world was dumped into our country from prisons, from gangs, from mental institutions. We have many people walking the streets, walking in areas that we don't know anything about that came out of insane asylums. They released the insane asylum population into our country. And it's amazing the job that you and Tom Homan are doing, by the way, on that. But we have to get them out, and we have no choice. We have to get them out, and we are getting them out. And so, Pete, do you want to tell them about our great military and how well we did with respect to the bombers and the B-2? We had the pilots here 2 days ago, and they were incredible people. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Truly a historic mission and demonstrated the skill and courage of the United States military.
from those B-2 pilots and families that we had a chance to meet, sir, to the fighter pilots, to the refuelers, to the maintainers, to the air defenders who defended the base. What was demonstrated on the world stage was American military might and capability. And it wasn't just Fordo and Esfahan and Natanz that took notice in Iran. It was the rest of the world, that we have a decisive commander-in-chief willing to use these capabilities, which are the best in the world. As the president pointed out, no one else could have done what America did there on that night. And everyone took notice of that. With the one big beautiful bill, sir, we've got 150 billion additional to invest in Golden Dome and all the other weapon systems and stockpiles and shipbuilding priorities of yours. Another month, another historic recruiting bump. It's not just the Army and the Marine Corps anymore. It's the Navy, the Air Force, and the Space Force, all historically ahead of where they've ever been. So historic spirit inside the military. We had a chance to be at NATO, Marco and I, and see how the world responds to us saying it's time for you to shoulder the burden and take the lead for your continent. That only happens with President Trump leading. And we're proud to be a part of what's going on at the border, sir, with now a fourth national defense area where we're helping get to that number 0 in securing the border. But that mission, Operation Midnight Hammer, re-established deterrence. It reversed what happened in Afghanistan. You saw the debacle of what Biden allowed to happen in Afghanistan and what that did to our image. President Trump said, with Operation Midnight Hammer, we're reestablishing American leadership and deterrence, and we're proud to be a part of it, sir.
And our so-called enemies were watching. They watched every minute of it. They watched. There was very few people that weren't watching, actually, but they watched every minute. It was a perfect military performance, the likes of which we haven't seen in a long time. I mean, if you compare that to the same country, the hostages from years ago, Jimmy Carter, was unfortunate for Jimmy Carter. He was a nice man, but with the helicopters going down, the sandstorms, the prisoners, they got captured, then the election and the prisoners and Reagan and all the problems. It was nothing but problems. And that was a failure. And ours was not only the pilots. I mean, those machines flew for 37 straight hours. They didn't stop. They went skedaddle. You know the word skedaddle? It means skedaddle. They dropped the bombs and somebody said, skedaddle. Let's get the hell out of here. And every bomb hit its mark and hit it incredibly. And as you know, the Atomic Energy Commission said it's gone. That place is gone. We had a lot of fake reporting, mostly from CNN, where the scammer a writer for CNN, who should be fired, by the way, she was involved with the 51 fake intelligence agents, if you remember that. She did that story, created a story out of it. She created a story out of the laptop from hell, saying it came from Russia, but it actually came from Hunter Biden's bedroom or worse. Just a scammer, and she's still at CNN, which is pretty amazing. But we'll ask you a question about her. But they came up with this concept that maybe the attack wasn't that good. And I saw it happen right after the attack. I saw this person on CNN. I actually watch. I like to watch the enemy. You learn from the enemy. And I watch because you have to know where they're coming from. And I watch her say, Anderson, I'm hearing stories that maybe they didn't hit their target. Maybe it wasn't that good a hit. And they were hearing stories. The next day it was a little more, and the next day a little more. After 3-4 days, she was saying, I don't know. I don't think it was that. Except by that time, everybody knew it was hit perfectly. The evidence is in the planes. The pilots are their best evidence. But they actually came out of their plane because they were here the other day, and they said, it was so sad. We did such a good job. We flew into very dangerous airspace. I'll never forget, we were in the Situation Room. And they said they have entered Iranian airspace, and everyone took a deep breath because they had more missiles pointed at them, but the equipment is so good. It's stealth, way up in the air, and it was stealth. And they went right through that, and they by the time they found out they were there, they were already gone. That was the word skedaddle, get the hell out of here. But they were right in the most dangerous airspace in the world, and they took those big, beautiful, very fast. They're unbelievable planes. I mean, they become really beautiful works of art. I always thought they sort of were cool, but now they look better than just cool, don't they? Huh? But they dropped the loads, and literally they would hit. If you look at this table from here to there, they had a A half a refrigerator door is the way to best explain it. Take a refrigerator door, average size, cut it in half. That was their target. They hit every single one. Then we had 30 missiles, Tomahawk, shot from submarines 300 miles away. Every one of them hit their target. It was a perfect mission. Then they came back almost 37 hours. Every plane worked perfectly. The mechanics were here too. I said, you got to get the mechanics here. We didn't have any problems. If you remember, they had a lot of problems with the helicopters, but they did fly through a dust storm, which they shouldn't have done. Sometimes you say, let's go back and try it on a nicer day. Dust and sand don't work well with helicopters if you know much about helicopters. But that was a horrible embarrassment to us. Then we had Afghanistan, which I think was the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And we would have gotten out. I was the one that got them down. I would have kept Bagram, the big air base, which right now is controlled by China, one among the most powerful runways in the world, thick with concrete and steel. Anything could land. And right now, they were 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. I was keeping it. Outside of that, we were leaving, and I would have been out faster than them, but we would have gotten out with strength and dignity. Instead, that was the most botched up mess I've ever seen. They left all that equipment behind, and every year they have a parade running down some third-rate street with the equipment. You know, it's supposed to be Fifth Avenue. It doesn't work. But with all that equipment that they left, they should have taken every ounce of it. I was taking I said every screw, every bolt, every nail you take out of there. And Millie said, I remember one time, sir, we're better off leaving the equipment. Why? Well, it's cheaper. I said, cheaper? You mean it's cheaper to leave a $150 million airplane rather than flying it into Pakistan or India or someplace, or just flying it straight home? It's cheap. Yes, sir. That's when I knew he was an idiot. Didn't take long to figure that one out. But they left all that equipment, but they left their dignity behind. It was the most embarrassing moment, in my opinion, in the history of our country. Not that we got out. We should have not been there, but that we got out the way we got out, with great embarrassment and death. You had 13 young people. I've gotten to know their families very well, but you had hundreds of people killed that nobody talks about. You had the other side, many people were killed. Many people are walking around with no legs, no arms from that whole thing. They left from the wrong airport. They should have left from Bagram, because Bagram was a big base with hundreds of miles of fencing and territory around it. Nobody would be able to get near it. And they left. So, we've done a great job. And I think people are really starting to see it. They're starting to appreciate it. Pete's done fantastically. That mission was a work of art. And I have spoken to some of our perceived, I don't know if they're enemies, but they're perceived as being potential enemies. And they essentially said the same thing. Very impressive. There wasn't a thing that we didn't lose an engine. We didn't lose it. Just, they landed and they were cheered. But the sad thing was they were cheered. And one of the pilots said, we were a little concerned because when we got out, we were told that on television, they were reporting that we may have missed our targets. Sir, we hit every target. That's what I do for a living. We hit every target. In fact, when the bombs hit, a yellow haze came over the horizon that I've never seen before. It just lit up the whole horizon, brighter than the sun. It was like looking into the sun. He goes, we hit our target, because you know what that was exploding. And but they were a little downbeat because they listened to that fake CNN reporting and the fake New York Times. They worked together to try and say that it wasn't perfect. They couldn't say they missed. All they could say is, maybe it wasn't perfect. And you ought to fire that reporter immediately. You should fire her. Real fake. And so I just want to congratulate those pilots. And, a lot of people don't like bringing things like that up. I do. I always like confronting, because otherwise the public doesn't know that you're a bunch of crooked people. But they know, they've learned, and the media has to straighten out their act. The media is down to 17% approval. You got to do a little better than that. It's important for the country that you do better. I think they ought to make a lot of changes. I think changes are going to be made to the media, but it's hard to have a really successful country if you have a corrupt media, and we really have a corrupt media, and nobody really knows why. I mean, why would you want to have open borders and criminals pouring into our country? Why would you want to have men playing in women's sports, transgender for everyone, you'll have to figure that out. But some of you don't. I mean, I'm looking at some people, they love the country, but I look at other people and they can't. But we're really proud of our military. It was, and the people that maybe don't like us or want to play games with us, because I think that had you not had the situation in Afghanistan, I don't think Putin would have gone in. I think when Putin looked at how stupid and incompetent that operation was, he said, wow, this might be a chance. And we're dealing with him now too. We're not happy with Putin. I'm not happy with Putin. I can tell you that much right now, because he's killing a lot of people. And a lot of them are his soldiers and their soldiers, mostly. And it's now up to 7,000 a week. And I'm not happy with Putin. Okay, any questions? Yes.
Yes, sir. You just said that you're not happy with Vladimir Putin. Is there anything that you plan to do to act on that feeling of unhappiness?
Well, I wouldn't be telling you. Don't we want to have a little surprise? One of the things we did with the attack is that, and you asked that question, I didn't mean to be rude, but I'm in a rude because I'm looking at some of these crooked people up here. So I'm rude, but your question was asked very nicely. But one of the things we did is we went over every fact. We wanted to get every fact straight. We wanted to have the distance straight, the number of pilots straight. Everything had to be correct, because this was a very important mission. If we failed on this mission, it was beyond the war that, obviously we had with Iran and Israel. A lot of hatred, a lot of years and years of hatred, centuries of hatred. People have never seen anything like it. So we wanted to be correct with all our facts. So what I was doing is just asking. It would be great if the media would be correct with their facts. That's all we ask for. So go ahead. So finish it up.
Oh yes. Just returning back to Russia. If there's anything that you would signal about your displeasure with them.
Well, I'm very unhappy with them. There's no reason for this. It's turned out to be tougher, but it's only tougher. And I will say the Ukrainians were brave, but we gave them the best equipment ever made. We gave them the anti-tank busters that knocked out tanks. I mean, you just aim them in the direction of the tank and the tank is gone. We gave them missiles, the latest and the greatest. They were able to shoot down a lot of things that would have normally wiped out. Probably would have been a very quick war. It would have been a war that lasted 3-4 days, but they had the benefit of unbelievable equipment. And Europe gave them too. We gave them far more because Biden shouldn't have done that. He should have equalized. We should have given them the same, or we should have given actually less than Europe. It affects Europe much more than us, but we're in there for over $300 billion. Europe's in there for over 100 billion, but still, Europe gave a lot. And I will say this, the Ukrainians, whether you think it's unfair that we gave all that money or not, they were very brave because somebody had to operate that stuff. And a lot of people I know wouldn't be operating it. They wouldn't have the courage to do it. So they fought very bravely, but we gave them the best equipment in the world. We make the best military equipment by far. There's nobody close. You look at other equipment from other countries, it's not even close. That's why everybody wants to buy our equipment. And that's why we're going to step up these contractors now that make it, and they're brilliant, but they make it too slowly. And we have to step them up, Pete, and let them make it at a much higher rate. Unfortunately, we have to do that. But if you look at our Patriots, if you look at our Tomahawks, if you look at our, what we do with tanks is you wouldn't want to be driving a tank. You would feel nice and secure, but they are javelins, they're called. And I gave them the javelins. Remember, they said Trump gave the javelins and Obama gave them sheets, right? They called Obama at that time. Barack Hussein Obama, if you haven't heard, did a terrible job. But that was a war that should have never happened. And a lot of people are dying. And it should be meaningless.
Do you want to say anything? Do you want to go as a sanctions bill on Russia? Do you want him to move?
I'm looking at it. Yeah, no, I'm looking. The Senate is passing, and passed very, very tough sanctions. But yeah, I'm looking at
Can
it.
you sign that?
It's an optional bill. It's totally at my option. They pass it totally at my option and to terminate totally at my option. And I'm looking at it very strongly.
Yesterday you said you want to see more.
Go ahead, please.
The Council of Economic Advisors released a new report saying that imported goods have actually decreased in price from December
I know, it's
through March. Well, my question is,
With the tariffs.
Well, the Fed chairman keeps saying that tariffs are going to cause price increases.
Are
the prices just not
chairman
passed
of the
through?
Fed?
Yes, exactly.
Well,
Are the prices,
you do a better job than him.
are the prices just not passed through yet?
No, I think what's happening is everything's evening out. You know, when we charge, see what people don't understand, the other countries have been charged, almost every country charges us tariffs. We had deficits with everybody for years, for decades. And we were like this big monolith that made bad deals with everybody. We rebuilt South Korea, we stayed there. It's okay, we rebuilt it and we stayed there. And they pay us very little for the military. I got them to pay billions of dollars and Biden then canceled it when he came in. I said to South Korea, as an example, we give you free military, essentially, very little. And I think you should pay us $10 billion a year. And they went crazy. But they agreed to 3. So I got 3 with a phone call. And I was satisfied. I said, but next year we have to talk. And then we had a rigged election and we never got to talk. And you know what Biden did? They probably went to him and they said, listen, Trump treated us terribly and we shouldn't be paying anything. And he cut it down to nothing. So that's what happens. It's ridiculous. That's the other thing. We're talking to countries about contributing to the military, not only just paying more in NATO, but contributing. We have 45,000 soldiers in South Korea. We have 45,000 soldiers in Germany, 52,000 actually. And that's a huge economic development for them. That's tremendous amount. That's like having a city. It's tremendous money for them, and it's a tremendous loss for us. So we're talking in a very nice way. We're talking to them about it. It's very unfair. We supply the militaries to many very successful countries. I mean, South Korea is making a lot of money, and they're very good. They're very good, but they should be paying for their own military.
President Trump, I'll ask you a question about Jerome Powell as well, and then a question to the Attorney General. Jerome Powell, and then I have a question for the Attorney General. Jerome Powell, who you've been pressuring to lower interest rates, he's facing accusations of lying to Congress, which is a potential crime about the opulence.
He should resign immediately. We should get somebody in there that's going to lower interest rates.
Do you want congressional
Why don't you go for his resignation?
Do you want congressional Republicans to investigate and pursue?
It's okay with me. I think he's terrible. I think, look, we're paying, I call him too late. TOO, too late, like Too Tall Jones for the Dallas Cowboys, right? Too late. He's always late. But he wasn't late with Biden before the election. He was cutting him like crazy. It didn't help too much, did it? But he was cutting him like crazy before the election with Kamala. And Biden, he was trying to get them in, I guess. I don't know. He was recommended by somebody that worked for me. I like you better.
If I could ask the Attorney General a question too, President.
Sure.
Your memo and release yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former Labor Secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of Saturday?
Yeah, sure.
Could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
This is the show right here.
That
I'm very disappointed in what he answered.
Is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, It's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every year, every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
Mr. President, on the tariffs again, on August 1st, you've said it is the deadline. What incentives do countries have to negotiate? It seems that deadline keeps moving. It was April 2nd, now it's...
We didn't move, no. It's always been August 1st, that's when we're paying. And a statement was put out today, and I put it out just to make it clear. It wasn't a change, it was August 1st. We don't change very much. You know, every time we put out a statement, they say he made a change. I didn't make a change. Clarification, maybe. No, August 1st they pay. And everybody pays, everybody has to pay. And the incentive is that they have the right to deal in the United States. If they don't want to, they don't have to pay and they don't have to deal here. But if they want to buy and make a lot of money and sell in the United States, they have to do that. You know, if you go back and look at some of the good presidents, our country was the wealthiest, proportionately the wealthiest. From 1870 to 1913, it was an all-tariff country. We didn't have income tax. That came in in 1913. We had tariffs. And we had so much money, we didn't know what to do with it. We had, we had a couple of presidents that were very, very strong. McKinley, I guess more than anybody, but he was the tariff king, but he was very, very strong. As sort of said, he made a fortune for this country, became very rich. And then Teddy Roosevelt went out and vice president, and he spent the money. And they said Roosevelt was a great president. And let's say he was a great president, but the money was paid by McKinley with tariffs. Tariffs are charged by other countries at levels that are ridiculous. And, you know, I call those other countries to say, and every one of them is willing to give us everything now, by the way, just so you know. Sir, we'll charge you no tariffs, nothing. We'll give you everything. We'll give you access to our markets. We'll give you everything. Is that a correct statement, Scott?
Yes, sir.
Howard, would you say that's a correct statement?
Exactly correct.
It's like they just don't, because they're very spoiled, because for years they ripped us off and we didn't have a president that understood it, or Secretary of Treasury or Secretary of a lot of different secretaries are involved, but certainly Commerce Secretary was, you know, not doing their job. I don't know about Kelly, she's small business. We'll keep it that way, okay? Her small business is bigger than almost all big businesses when you add it all up. But no, they are very respectful of our country. But the incentive is that they have the right to do business with us. Without that, they don't have the right to do business. And that would be okay too.
We want a flurry of deals. We'll be here in the next 24 hours. We'll be here a flurry of deals.
Yeah, we have a lot of them going out. But the deals are mostly my deal to them. We're picking a number that's low. We don't want to hurt that. And fair. We're picking a number that's lower than, in most cases, lower than what they charged us. But it's amazing when you've paid all this money for years and they get one president that's a little bit different and a little tougher on this subject, and they're willing to drop everything they've been charging us for years and years. I mean, we have countries going, we will have you don't have to pay any tariff to come in and do business. They're giving us total access to their countries. They gave us no access to the country. They say, well, you cannot go into our country. Okay, good. Now we will give you total access and you don't have to pay any tariffs. But please don't charge us tariffs. And we don't like that deal. So the letters I send out we have made some deals. We can make a lot more deals. It's just too time consuming. It just makes it more complicated. And we can do things over the years too. You know, we're not hard line, but it's about time the United States of America started collecting money from countries that were ripping us off and laughing behind our back at how stupid we were. Okay? Thank you.
Mr. President, on the tariff issue, so you talked about India coming, but then a couple days ago, you issued a new tariff threat to members of the BRICS countries for if they aligned with anti-American policies.
10% charge.
That would be India, Brazil,
That's
Russia,
right. They have to pay
South
10% if they're in BRICS. Because
Right.
BRICS was set up to hurt us. BRICS was set up to degenerate our dollar and take our dollar as the standard, take it off as the standard. And that's okay if they want to play that game, but I can play that game too. So anybody that's in BRICS is getting a 10% charge.
Is that immediate, sir, or is
Yeah,
that
pretty
if
soon.
they engage in some behavior?
Well, if they're a member of BRICS, they're going to have to pay 10% tariff just for that one thing. And they won't be a member long. I thought BRICS was, you know, I said this about a year ago, and it largely broke up. But, you know, there are a couple that hang around, but I thought it largely broke up. BRICS is not, in my opinion, not a serious threat. But what they're trying to do is destroy the dollar so that another country can take over and be the standard. And we're not going to lose the standard at any time. If you have a smart president, you will never lose the standard. If you have a stupid president like the last one, you would lose the standard. You wouldn't have the dollar as you. And if we lost the world standard dollar, that would be like losing a war, a major world war. We would not be the same country any longer. We're not going to let that happen. The dollar, you ever hear the expression, dollar is king? The dollar is king. We're going to keep it that way, okay? And I'm just saying, if people want to challenge it, they can, but they're going to have to pay a big price. And I don't think any of them are willing to pay that price.
But it's not question, does that jeopardize?
Thank you, Mr. President. Are you optimistic about reaching a tariff deal with the European Union soon?
Well, the European Union has been speaking to us, Ursula and the whole group, and they've been very nice. They treated us very badly until recently. Now they're treating us very nicely. It's like a different world, actually. They've treated us very badly. They were among the toughest to deal with. Actually, in many respects, they were much worse than China. Look at what they do to our companies. They sue Apple. They sue Google. 17 billion they got from Apple on a lawsuit that they didn't have a case. They have, you know, judges that are European Union judges. And they ruled, they take so much money away from our country in terms of that, in terms of other things that they do. They're very tough, but now they're being very nice to us, and we'll see what happens. We're probably 2 days off from sending them a letter. We are talking to them. I just want you to know, a letter means a deal. You know, a lot of people said, we got 200 countries. We can't meet with 200 countries. We have a few trusted people that know what they're doing, that are doing a good job, but you can't do it. You have to do it in a more general way, but it's a very good way. It's a better way. It's a more powerful way. And we sent them a letter. You read the letter. I think it was well crafted. And mostly it's just a little number in there. You'll pay 25%, 35%. We have some at 60, 70. Those are ones with massive, you know, where we have massive trade deficits because they've treated us very badly. But I would say in every case, I'm treating them better than they treated us over the years. Don't you agree with that? I could have done much. I could have been much harsher. I don't want to do that. We want to have relationships, but in every case, they treated us far worse than I'm treating them. I'm treating them very good. I could go higher with the tariffs, but I don't want to hurt them. That's why when you just read it, you come up with the number. It's so incredible that prices are actually going down. Just so you know, when I got in, everyone said, "Oh, eggs are going through the roof." That was I was in for about 4 days, and they started screaming at me about eggs. They said, "That's Biden's problem." I didn't know about eggs, but eggs went up about 5 times. You did a fantastic job, and we ended up shortly getting. In fact, for Easter, they said, "Go out and buy plastic eggs. You can't use real eggs." Well, we bought 200,000 eggs for the White House for the Easter egg hunt that we have at the White House, and there were eggs. We had the price down, and now the price is lower than it was before. We did a good job with eggs, but we did a good job with groceries. Our prices are down in this country. A big part of it's oil. The oil, you have You had a couple of places last week, you had $1.99 for oil, for gasoline. Nobody thought they'd see that. I want to get it lower if I can, but we've done a good job. You've done a very good job. Do you want to say what's happening with energy?
Well, absolutely, but I would say on the pricing side, President Trump, the fact that you've endorsed and supported a policy of energy dominance, that sends a signal to the market that we're going to have more supply. You talked during the campaign about inflation being a country buster. You've broken the back of inflation in 6 months, among all the other things you've accomplished.
We have no inflation.
And we've got, and then heading into the 4th of July, these were the lowest gas prices at the pump in 4 years. And again, for Americans, this is like hundreds of billions of dollars that stay in their pockets because we lowered the price of gas at the pump. But when we lower the price of energy, it lowers the price of food. It lowers the price of the clothes you wear.
It's the biggest thing.
It's the biggest thing.
It's like a big tax cut. When you get energy down, every 50 cents is like a massive tax cut, and we've gotten it down much below that. You know, we had great energy, great low prices, everything else. When the election turned over, I'm trying to be nice about it. It turned over, shockingly, but nevertheless, it happened. Energy started going up, and it went up really bad, and then he went back to the Trump policy. The problem was they didn't know how to do that, and he lost it. He lost that sucker. That big sucker was out of control, and his energy prices went way up, and that's what caused it. But it was also stupid spending. They spent money like, they used to use the term drunken sailors, but I won't use that term. Although it is very descriptive, I won't use that term. I refuse to use it. But they spent money at levels that nobody had ever seen before, and trillions and trillions of dollars wasted on the Green New Scam. Greatest scam in the history of our country, other than maybe Russia, that might have been. But the Green New Scam was the single greatest scam in the history of our country and continues to be, but it's weakened badly. It's hobbling along because people are finally getting it. But they spent trillions of dollars on the Green New Scam, getting nothing for it. Devised by a couple of young people that weren't even good college students, you know? Not even good students. Check out their marks. Yeah.
Not
for CNN. Not for CNN. Go ahead.
In the last jobs report, Mr. President, in the last jobs report, the manufacturing jobs actually lost 7,000 jobs. When will the investments that you've been talking about have an effect
Well,
on
they're building the plants now. About 7 have started. We're going to have hundreds started within a short period of time. Lee Zeldin, who may be the most important man in this room, I'm sorry, but he's the one that gets the permits, whereas he's the one that has to get the permits for the plants and the factories, and permits that used to take 5 years, he's getting in record-setting times. AI, we're leading China a lot in AI, and if we go with this, you know, I'm allowing the plants to build their own electric. I'm allowing them to become an electric utility, so they can produce their own electricity, because we need double to be successful with AI, which is the biggest thing now. We need double the electricity that we have, which is hard to believe. We need even more than that. And they're building plants with their own electricity substations. They don't have to use the grid. And anything they build extra, they're putting into the grid. So we're supplying the grid with brand new electric sources. And you know, it's funny, when they came to see me, they never even asked for that. I told them about it. The reason they didn't, they thought that was an impossibility. You're not allowed to build your own electric. These are massive investments that are being made in building electricity for their plants. And they're going to have, I think, Doug, a lot of electricity left over. And that electricity is going to be passed into the grid and give us no more, you know, like you look at California. They have blackouts and brownouts every week. They're totally out of control. They have a really incompetent governor. Where's Chris? Is he here? Do you want to speak to the subject?
Yeah, I think a huge thing in the One Big Beautiful Bill, Mr. President, because of your leadership, is the ending of these subsidies, as you call them, the Green New Scam. That saves our country $500 billion over the next 10 years. But American taxpayers were paying twice. They're paying that money, $500 billion in the subsidies, and they were paying more expensive electricity price. If you subsidize something, you should at least lower the cost of it. But in this case, we were subsidizing something and paying more for it. So the one big beautiful bill had two huge things: ending wasteful spending. Wind, solar, and batteries combined are 3% of U.S. total primary energy. 3% for $1 trillion, another $500 billion coming. It's just not a good investment, hurting our businesses, hurting our consumers. And the one big beautiful bill also unshackled oil, gas, and coal development in the United States, onshore and offshore. Secretary Burgum has been working tirelessly on how, by getting the government out of the way, private businesses will develop more resources in the United States, lowering costs for American consumers and making much better leverage for the United States to help our allies abroad and reduce the power of our adversaries abroad. So just a huge win on the energy front all around, and I thank you for your leadership.
We're setting records now on energy, and there'll be nothing compared to what they'll be in about a year from now. But we're setting records, and wind is a very expensive form of energy. It's very bad for your beautiful surroundings, the plains and the valleys, and the birds are dying all over the place. You know, the whole thing is a disaster. They're almost exclusively made in China. Not that I have anything against China, because I don't have a great relationship with President Xi, but I asked him, how many wind farms do you have? He makes them, but they don't have a lot of wind farms, I'll tell you, very, very few. And wind is tremendously expensive and is very ugly. And if you own a house that's inside of a windmill, your house is worth less than half. And you hear noises. And interestingly, in New England, you probably read, where for 50 years they had 2 wells washed up, 50 years. And last summer they had 14 washed up. Now, I'm not saying that's the wind farm that was built, but maybe it is, right? Probably is. It's tremendously expensive, and it can only be done with subsidy. You know, I know a man that's in that business, and one of the biggest in the world actually runs a company that builds these stupid windmills. And he said, I hate the business because it's the only energy where you need subsidy. He said, energy shouldn't need subsidy. You should make money with energy. So when the other one is the solar, those big solar fields, they're taking our farmland. Our farmers are like mortified by it. They hate it. It's very, very inefficient and very ugly too. You know, probably better than a windmill, but you go around and you see all these things that are 3 miles long by 3 miles wide. And you say, what the hell is that? And it's a lot of plastic from China. It's plastic, black plastic from China. Now, we want to be smart. We're going with, look, China right now is building 58 coal-fired plants, 58 big ones. They have 62 on the books to build. We've reintroduced clean, beautiful coal, because, you know, you can do a lot with coal now, clean, beautiful coal, and natural gas, and all of the other things that we have. But we don't want wind, and we don't want solar, because they're a blight on our country. They hurt our country very badly, and smart countries don't use it. Solar sounds good, I will say, and I like, on occasion, you'll see a roof which is made as solar brick, but it's a smaller use. We need the kind of thing that's going to fire up our plants, and it's not going to be wind, you know, that is very intermittent, as you probably know. But they've spent a fortune. They've spent trillions of dollars on this stuff. And I'll just give you one other story. A friend of mine is a very successful guy. He went back to see his mother in Minnesota, hadn't seen her in a long time. And he wasn't back for 10 years, which isn't a nice story. I mean, you don't see your mother for 10 years. She's got some difficulties, which I know the guy, he does have some difficulties. He's very successful, but probably not the nicest person. It was actually longer than 10 years, but he went back and he told me he wanted to go and look at the valley. There's a valley in Minnesota that he thought was so beautiful. And I hadn't seen it in a long time. He's driving along the road. He said, oh my, I'll use the word gosh. Oh my gosh. He said, oh, he said, it looked like a junkyard. You had 159 windmills. They were all over the place. Some were old, some were newer, different companies, different shapes, different sizes, different colors. Many of them were terminated meaning closed. You can't take them down because the environmentalists don't let you bury the blades because they're made out of a fiber they say is bad for the earth. So they want you to put them up, but they don't let you take them down. But many of them were turned off. He said it looked like a junkyard. Go to Palm Springs, California, and take a look at that pile of junk. And you go into a wealthy neighborhood. Before you get there, you have to ride through hundreds of windmills that are, most of them are turned off. They're rotting, they're rusting, they're 30 years old, 20 years old. And they have a very short life. You know, those windmills have a very short life, especially the ones that are in the nice salty Atlantic Ocean and Pacific Ocean, where the salt just gets under that steel and decimates it. No, it's a horrible, horrible thing for our country. And I speak out. It would be nice to say wind, because it sounds so good, doesn't it, Doug? Wind, wind. But it's not. It's these ugly machines, and they're all made. You got to see. Some are a little taller, a little shorter. They're made by different companies. They have different stocks. They have different blades. They have different everything. It is so horrible. And if you look at smart countries, they don't use it. Smart countries don't use it. And we're now a smart country. We're a brilliant country. We're not smart. We're brilliant now. We're going to be a brilliant country. We have to be, because we have to catch up for some really stupid people that did a bad job. Yes, Brian?
Yes, Mr. President, I've got a quick comments and feedback as a native Texan, someone that I grew up bringing my kids to a camp very near the affected camp now. Thank you on behalf of Texas. I've gotten hundreds of messages that want to thank. If you're in the cabinet room, you can tell the president and his team on behalf of Texans, thank you so much for the quick response and the loving, the hugs. I saw that you gave. Two quick questions.
I saw a Palestinian senator. His name is Schumer. He's a great Palestinian. No, he's a Palestinian. He's become a Palestinian. He's abandoned the Jews. But I saw him say, it's Trump's fault. Yeah, that's right. It's Trump's fault. He was actually, do you ever see John Lovett's The Liar? Where he goes, yeah, I went to Harvard. That's right. This was Schumer. He goes, yeah, it's Trump's fault. That's right. It's Trump. I actually saw that stupid guy try and blame it on me. And I said, man, that's a tough one to take. But his career is limited, because I hear AOC is going to beat him. And she's no bargain either, by the way. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying that's an example of America First team effort to get this country back. So that's what America First looks like for the viewers watching us at home. My two questions. Looks like we have a rogue judge, an Obama-backed rogue judge that is attempting to block the funding to Planned Parenthood, which the big, beautiful bill cuts off the funding to Planned Parenthood. Any plans to challenge that?
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes, we're on it. We're on it. And I texted, I believe, I talked to yesterday Secretary Lutnick and Secretary Besson. I reached out to you to let you know that we were on it in the big, beautiful bill.
Wonderful. And then
I let her handle that question. You notice? I said, go ahead, handle that question.
I'll toss it to her. Then my second question was Secretary Rollins. You did an amazing press conference today in front of the Department of Agriculture. You talked about the Farm Act and the need to get China out of our country, owning farmland. For the viewers at home that might have missed that, can you recap what that means to national security to make sure we can grow our own food?
Well, thank you, Brian. Sir, if you don't mind. Yes, this morning, Secretary Hegseth, Secretary Nome, and Attorney General Bondi and I had a press conference at the USDA. I just happened to have a chart in case it came up, but obviously the Chinese owning of farmland in our country is a massive national security issue. And for the media, you can see the yellow is where all of the farms have been purchased over the last number of years. And the red is around all of the military bases where that farmland has been purchased. So this is a massive national security issue. The press conference this morning included 3 of our greatest governors as well, Sarah Sanders from Arkansas, Jim Pillen from Nebraska, and Bill Lee from Tennessee. The states have begun taking a leadership role to ban the purchasing of China farmland. Obviously, Congress needs to step up and catch up, and we're going to be working alongside of them as well. We had some of our members, great members of Congress there, but it is time. And I think that this morning was symbolic of many things. The first of this administration working every day to effectuate President Trump's leadership and unequivocal support of America First. But second, just how close we are as a cabinet. I don't know in any other administration that you'd have 4 cabinet members at the USDA on a Tuesday morning when it's about 110 degrees outside with the sun beating down on us talking about stir your vision. So I think it was a great day. It was just the start. There's an executive order coming and some other things coming behind that. But protecting America's farms isn't just about protecting our farmers. It's also about national security. So that's what we discussed this morning.
I do want to say that I think we have had a really good relationship with China lately, and we're getting along with them very well. They've been very fair on our trade deal, honestly, and I hope we're going to have a great relationship. It's a big, strong, powerful country. We're more powerful than they are. We have much better military equipment than they do, but we are getting along with them very well. I'm getting along with President Xi very well. We speak often. And with all of that being said, and I understand what you're saying, but I think we're getting along with China very well.
Mr. President, you will send more weapons to Ukraine, as you said last night. Last week, the Pentagon paused some shipments of weapons to Ukraine. Did you approve of that pause?
We want to put defensive weapons because Putin is not, he's not treating human beings right. He's killing too many people. So we're sending some defensive weapons to Ukraine, and I've approved that.
So who ordered the pause last week?
I don't know. What did you tell me?
I think that's a question for the
Go ahead.
Mr. President, on immigration, the Secretary, the Agriculture Secretary, did say this morning that undocumented workers would not be covered by any amnesty of who are working on farms. You had said maybe that the ISA folks won't go after those folks on farms. So which is it?
There's no amnesty. What we're doing is we're getting rid of criminals, but we are doing a work program. Do you want to explain that, please?
Yeah, this morning we talked about, of course, this was a top of mind question. This morning we talked about protecting the farmers and the farmland, but obviously this president's vision of no amnesty, mass deportation continues, but in a strategic way, and then ensuring that our farmers have the labor that they need. Secretary Chavez-Durimer has been a leader on this. Obviously, this comes out of the Labor Department, but moving toward automation, ensuring that our farmers have that workforce, and moving toward an American workforce. So all of the above.
We're going to give the farmers the people they need, but we're not talking amnesty. Lori, do you want to say something about
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. On this, thank you, Secretary Rollins, how important this is never to displace the American worker. What the Department of Labor is doing is focusing on what the law entails now, being more modernized, more streamlining to work through the H programs. We're going to have a concierge approach to that, where we have, developed a new office to answer the need of our farmers and ranchers and producers, and not to displace the American worker and follow within the law now. And that does not include an amnesty program at all. And we've seen that working, and we'll continue to have that roll out. On the other topics that we've somewhat talked about, the jobs numbers, Mr. President, 4 months in a row, we've seen those jobs numbers increase. That's an exciting time for our manufacturers. That was asked earlier. We know it's going to take some time, but through that deregulation process that Lee and I are working on as well, the Department of Labor has rolled out 63 new deregulations that we're going to be moving through. In the first Trump administration, it was successful with over 30. We've just rolled out 63 new ones in order to double down on those manufacturing companies, to let them know that we have signaled through this process that we will assist them in getting the workforce that they need. It's an exciting time. That one big, beautiful bill, that was the signal to my former colleagues in Congress to get this done. It's been an important time. I spent time on the ground visiting 7 states in 9 days prior to that bill being passed, because it was the most pro-worker piece of legislation that we will ever see really in this country right now. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. That matters to the American worker, because we don't want to take their money and give it back. We want them to keep more of their hard-earned dollars in their pockets currently, and that's what they're excited about. And as I move forward with this tariff talks, I heard a company, orthopedic company in Indiana, say to me, for the first time since you have taken office, Mr. President, their increase in their bottom line by 8% since these tariff talks have happened. Not one company has said the president is not doing a good job. These tariff talks are working. They're feeling it on the ground. The media has told a false story, because what's happening on the ground is positive, and that's what we're seeing in these jobs numbers. So I really, through the Department of Labor, to come in behind all the secretaries and build this workforce is going to be key to the American worker. So thank you for what everybody did this last week. The one big, beautiful bill is a doubling down of this, and we're going to see these workers start to grow. And that apprenticeship program is going to be working.
That's
We'll
right.
have
It's
that
gonna be
million
great.
apprentices across the country.
We, as you know, we're building plants all over the country now, which you weren't building any plants 4 years ago. You weren't building anything. But those plants, when they open up, it's going to be, you'll see numbers like you haven't seen ever. I don't think in history you'll never see numbers like what we're going to see in the very near future. Many of them are building the plants. Some are just starting right now. It's a brand new administration.
I hear you, Fred.
And they wouldn't be here except for two things: November 5th, the election, and the tariffs. And frankly, I guess the election was more important because of the tariffs. I mean, another person wouldn't have done this. But they're coming in because of the tariffs. They have to, they're not going to pay 25, 30, 40, 50%, 70 and 100%. And we'll be announcing something very soon on pharmaceuticals. We're going to give people about a year and a half to come in. And after that, they're going to be tariffed. If they have to bring the pharmaceuticals into the country, the drugs and other things into the country, they're going to be tariffed at a very, very high rate, like 200%. We'll give them a certain period of time to get their act together. But they were all here now. They all left. They went to other places because we allowed people that sat in this room allowed it to happen. And I don't allow it to happen. The people in this room don't allow it to happen. So we're going to be announcing pharmaceuticals, chips, and various couple of other things, big ones. We did steel, as you know, they're 50%. We did aluminum, 50%. Lumber just came out.
That's copper.
And we did cars. And now today we're doing copper.
Dr. Arnold, what would that tariff be on? The section tariff?
I believe the tariff on copper, we're going to make it 50%.
50%.
Any breakthroughs in
See, I'm glad he
policy?
didn't question it. Just-
Any breakthroughs?
I sort of thought, what would that be? It's a quick one. I didn't have much time, but he agreed with me. That's why he's ours.
Any breakthroughs on Gaza with the Prime Minister, and there's reports that you're meeting with Netanyahu again tonight. Is that
Yeah,
accurate?
he's going to come over again tonight. We're talking about Gaza. It's mostly Gaza right now. It's he's been very unfairly treated. I think what they've done to him in Israel is very unfair, having to do with this trial. He's a wartime prime minister, had an unbelievable outcome, and I think he's been treated very unfairly. But he's coming over later. We're going to be talking about, I would say, almost exclusively Gaza. We got to get that solved. Gaza is a tragic. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. And he wants to get it solved, and I want to get it solved. And I think the other side wants to get it solved. Steve, could you talk on that, please?
We're in proximity talks now, and we had 4 issues, and now we're down to 1 after 2 days of proximity talks. So we are hopeful that by the end of this week, we will have an agreement that will bring us into a 60-day ceasefire. 10 live hostages will be released. 9 deceased will be released. We're meeting at the president's direction with all the hostage families to let them know. And we think that this will lead to a lasting peace in Gaza.
And you're doing a good job. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. A lot of hate, It's called long-term hate. But we think we're going to have it solved pretty soon, hopefully with a real solution, a solution that's going to be holding up.
And can I follow up? This is, I think, the first cabinet meeting since Elon Musk has not been a special government employee, not here anymore. He's now saying he's going to create a third political party. Are you worried about the impact that could have?
No, I think it'll help us. It'll probably help. Third parties have always been good for me. I don't know about Republicans, but for me.
Are you second guessing any of the cuts that Doge made? Since you
No,
described him as off the rails
look,
the other day?
we cut hundreds of billions of dollars with Doge. We could have done it differently. I would have done it differently a little bit maybe, but it was something that we saved a lot of money. You could always second guess. I guess some of the people in this room maybe would have done it slightly differently, and some would have done it exactly the way it was done. But it was dramatic and it was important. And we found a lot of things like billions of dollars given to people for environmental protection, where they had $100 in the account, like in Atlanta, Stacy. And then you had another one with 20 billion here, 20 billion here, and 2 billion here, and 15 billion. And Lee, you might want to mention just a couple of those things we really got because of Doge.
At the Trump EPA, the one big beautiful bill was filled with many big beautiful wins for the taxpayer. It delivered a sledgehammer
to the Green New scam. Billions of dollars rescinded. It's a big deal for the American taxpayer who sees money go through pass-throughs that are filled with self-dealing and conflicts of interest. They see unqualified recipients. They see reduced agency oversight, and they want accountability with their tax dollars, and they got it. In the example of the Stacey Abrams connected NGO, they received $100 in 2023. They got $2 billion in 2024. They had to complete training on how to develop a budget that was put into their grant agreement. They, out of nowhere, started paying a CEO $800,000, a COO $450,000, 22 people making over 150 grand. Out of nowhere, this is tax dollars. So money go through pass-throughs, through other pass-throughs, through other pass-throughs, and we lose oversight over it. And you see that it's going to former Biden officials, it's going to former Obama officials, it's going to Democratic donors. And we're not here saying we want to take money from a left-wing NGO and give it to a right-wing NGO. We want to give it back to the taxpayer. This is about us being good stewards of American tax dollars without any apology or regret. That's why President Trump was elected last November, because there are a whole lot of people who maybe they hadn't voted Republican in a long time. Maybe they didn't even vote for President Trump the first time around in 2016, but they're regretting that vote from 2016 and they were making it right in 2024. So the One Big Beautiful Bill gave us the tools to rescind billions of dollars more. We're seeing hundreds of thousands of dollars that'll get wasted per electric vehicle as an example of this money that was going through it. They gave $50 million to a group called Climate Justice Alliance. They say that climate justice runs through a free Palestine. The Biden EPA gave $50 million to a group that says the climate justice runs through a free Palestine. We say that if you're going to spend $1 in the name of remediating an environmental issue, then spend $1 on remediating an environmental issue. We say that we can protect the environment and grow the economy. We want to help grow more baseload power in this country. So why is it that it took this long for this team to get assembled, to be able to fix the mess that we inherited? But gosh, we love showing up at our jobs every single day, first thing in the morning, because all day long we get things done for the American taxpayer. And Congress did its part last week by passing One Big Beautiful Bill to deliver this accountability and to cut off the Green New scam. So maybe it's a bad day for Stacey Abrams. Maybe it's a bad day for all those well-connected Democrats getting paid off. But you know what? God bless America. Because at the end of the day, President Trump is here, J.D. Vance is here, and the greatest cabinet ever assembled to deliver that much-needed and highly demanded accountability.
That was a very good. And that's from the heart. It's from the heart.
On Ukraine, the Ukrainians have asked the International Court to go after Russia for using toxic chemicals in the fight. Germany and Germany and the Netherlands have had intelligence saying that. What does U.S. intelligence believe, and what do you believe about the use of chemical weapons? And would you agree that that's a case report?
Well, ask John maybe to discuss it if you'd like, John.
Well, Mr. President, obviously chemical weapons, if it's documented and its use, it's illegal. It's against all international laws of armed conflict and treaties. And obviously I can't share in this room with this audience the intelligence that I can share with you privately, but obviously you're not going to stand or allow for any violations of international law by anyone.
That's right. Thank you. Could I ask Sean to Department of Transportation?
Ask them or
Sean
tell
Duffy,
me.
former great congressman, very popular. Decided to go out and make a couple of bucks. He made a lot. And he got bored with that, though. He likes serving people better, the people. And could I ask you to just discuss a very important subject to me, and that's the modernization of our equipment at airports so that planes aren't crashing into each other and bad things don't happen. It should have been done many years ago. We were going to do it, and then the election precluded that, unfortunately, but we're doing it now. Could you tell them where we are?
Yeah, if I can start with Newark. You guys all covered what happened in Newark. We had outages for a couple of 30-second outages a couple months ago. We have, in 2 months, Mr. President, it's historic speed, laid new fiber lines for communication. and tested those in the next month. So those new lines for the Philly Tracon that controls the Newark airspace, they're up and running, lightning fast speed.
We're listening in here to Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy explaining the improvements that his agency is going to be making to make sure that the airs are safe right here. We do want to actually pivot to another camera shot in this very cabinet meeting. It toggles between the speakers as well as the entire cabinet. It is on a delay, so you might hear some of the words repeated, but we did want to bring that to you as it does have several camera angles.
Thank you.
But in the big beautiful bill, we got $12.5 billion. This is a historic investment in air traffic control. And so what the money is going to allow us to do is move from copper to fiber all over the country. So new copper lines. We think we can do that in a year and a half to 2 years. We have radar that dates back to the 1950s, some of it from the 60s and 70s. We get brand new radar across the country as well. We have some infrastructure money to build TRACONs and centers, the in-route centers that control the traffic across the country. So this is a massive new start to rebuild air traffic control. And again, this is dilapidated. Americans think that their government takes care of them and makes the investments that are necessary to make the country work. And for 30, 40 years, the investments were made. And so under your leadership and direction, we are making those investments. And per your direction, right now, we are interviewing what we could call a general contractor or an integrator. One company to manage. It's a massive project. The FAA is not qualified to manage this kind of a project. So we are now going through the process of finding who that one company will be to manage the whole project. We'll interview those companies together and make that selection. So we'll write one big beautiful check to one beautiful company that'll be responsible for this whole bill. But if I just make one last point, this is not enough money. We're going to need more. But this is a massive new start. The biggest investment. We'll need some more money on top of it, but a great start from the big beautiful.
The starter. It's very important to us. And just to cover that, there have been accidents, and my pilots, I would often hear them say, "Oh, good," and they would use a different system, a different country to land in New York. They'd use the radar and other things from a different country. I said, "What's that?" He says, "Oh, our system is so bad." And I knew that would start. And Boot Edge came in, and what they did was so crazy because they hooked it copper into fiber, into steel, they had all different systems. They had hundreds and hundreds of contractors, different contractors for different airports. They spent billions of dollars, and they made the system worse because you can't hook copper into fiber. It doesn't work that way. You just can't do it. It's not doable, but they tried to do it. It didn't work out too well. And in the end, it was just a complete disaster. We want to have one great company. Now, Raytheon's going to bid. IBM's going to bid. We have 5 or 6 bidders that really are good and do this stuff. And we want one, because I know about overruns. I look at the railroad out in California, headed up by one of the worst governors in our country, who I used to get along with, actually, but he's just, when you lose 25,000 houses and you would have had your cities burned down. If we didn't step in, Los Angeles would have been burned to the ground. But you look at that, and I said, I really know how to build, and you got to have one guy, one contractor, one great one, whether it's IBM or Raytheon is good, but you have 4 or 5 that are really, really great, and they're all bidding against each other. But you don't want to have one doing the wire and one doing the digging and one doing the demolition and then they're all saying they all blame each other because they're saying they were late and therefore you have to pay me millions of dollars more money. I know the system so well, and we're going to have a great company do the whole thing. We're going to get a fantastic price. Maybe we'll get them very big and very strong, and maybe we'll get them to make a contribution toward getting it done at the right price. But we're going to have a great system. When we finish, we will have the best system on earth, done by one of the 2 or 3 best companies. There are only a few companies can do this. This is not. But if you would have seen what this other group did, they were going crazy. They had, I heard 3,000 contractors. And then when it all came together, guess what? It didn't work. It's a disaster. So we are we're going to have in a pretty short period of time, it'll take us about 2 years to build it. And we'll have a contract given out probably over the next couple of months. We have some great bidders, some great companies that want to do the job. You're going to have great air traffic control.
Yes, can I just make one last point on this? So the last administration signed a contract with an American company to fix the copper to fiber, and that contract was a 15-year contract. The system is failing today, but that's how idiotic and incompetent the last administration was. And under your leadership, we're saying, listen, we don't have time. We don't have 15 years. We don't have 5 years. We have to do it right now. And so the president always talks about on time and on budget. We have embraced that. We are going to be on time and on budget. And by the way, you mentioned a train out of California. Stay tuned for probably give us 5 days and you'll have an answer on what's going to happen with the $4 billion that we potentially have invested on a train that's going to go nowhere. It's going to be $120 billion that'll never connect San Francisco to LA. Again, the last administration wasted so much money on projects that never work. If you're going to have high-speed rail, you're going to invest billions. We should actually have high-speed rail in America, not boondoggles that fund political friends and allies. And
they had from San Francisco, inside of San Francisco to inside of Los Angeles. It should have never been built because airplanes do it better. And you could drive it. You could drive it. No problem with driving it. The roads aren't even crowded. So they were going to do this. Somebody's idea. Somebody got paid off a lot of money and they started it. It was going to cost a very small amount of money. And it ended up costing literally hundreds of times what the original. And now what they did is they said, well, going into the city is too big a deal. So we'll leave it 25 miles short of the city. So now they're leaving it. They're not going to finish it, really. It's not the same project. So now they're leaving it outside of San Francisco and outside, short of each. They just want to get it done. And I've never seen cost overruns. You know, if you have a cost overrun of 10%, you should be ashamed of yourself. 20%, you should not do any more jobs. This is a cost overrun of 2,000%, something like that. It's unlimited, and it's not finished. And maybe it will never get finished. And I told Sean, look at it from every standard, but we don't want to, you know, we have federal money going into that. And it's like throwing it out the window. So whatever you can do to stop it.
$15 billion and not one track has been laid. 15 billion, 16 years into the project, not one track.
Mr. President,
on New York, you're the most prominent Republican in the country from the city. What do you want to?
Anywhere else?
Well,
I don't want to be a wise guy. Perhaps I can. Maybe Marco.
But how do you want Republican voters in the city to vote in the upcoming mayoral election? Should they vote for Eric Adams? Should they vote for Sliwa? Should they pick someone else?
Look, number one, you have a communist running, and you shouldn't vote for him. He's a disaster. He's leading. He's got the Democrat nomination because that shows you where the Democrats have gone. He actually wants to take over the grocery stores of John Catsimatidis, who's a great guy, a rich guy, grocer, does a good job, wants to take over. He actually called me the other day. He's concerned his stores are going to be taken from him and they won't be run like John runs them. Believe me, he runs a good operation, but he actually said he wants to run his own grocery stores. Now, this is a man who's not very capable, in my opinion, other than he's got a good line of bullshit. And he's convinced them to go with him. Now, as you know, Cuomo, who does have capability, is running, but he got knocked out. And now they're running as you have Eric Adams, the current mayor, you have Cuomo, and you have Curtis Sliwa.
Called him out on that one.
And Curtis runs every 4 years. He seems to be a fixture on the running scale. But you know, it's I'm not getting involved. But I can tell you this. I used to say we will not ever be a socialist country, right? Well, I'll say it again. We're not going to have, if a communist gets elected to run New York, it can never be the same, but we have tremendous power at the White House to run places when we have to. We could run DC. I mean, we're looking at DC. We don't want crime in DC. We want the city to run well. Susie Wiles is working very closely with the mayor, and they're doing all right. I mean, in the sense that we would run it so good, it would be run so proper. We get the best person to run it, and the crime would be down to a minimal, would be much less. And we're thinking about doing it. To be honest with you, we want a capital that's run flawlessly. And it wouldn't be hard for us to do it. And we've had a good relationship with the mayor, and we're testing it to see if it works. But New York City will run properly. We're going to bring New York back. I love New York. I loved New York for a long time. Then we had a bunch of crooked people in there. You have an attorney general who's a total stone cold crook, New York State, Letitia James, a total crook. All they do is want to go after political opponents. They do what's ever expeditious for them. She's the one that took out Cuomo because she wanted to run for governor, and then she ended up getting 1% of the vote. She polled at 1%. She dropped out, went back to attorney general. You have a lot of crooked things going on in New York. We're going to straighten out New York. Maybe we're going to have to straighten it out from Washington. But when I see a communist who has actually pretty much gotten the Democrat nomination, they also went to that new form of voting, which is a beauty. You go in there in third place, you come out in first. That's that form of voting that they have gone to. You know what I'm talking about. It's not too good. We're going to do something for New York. I can't tell you what yet, but we're going to make New York great again. Also, we're going to make it great again with the country. What we've done in this country in the last 6 months, nobody has ever seen it. And I told the story. The king of Saudi Arabia was over there. They gave us $5.1 trillion between Saudi Arabia and UAE, Qatar. 3 stops, $5.1 trillion coming into our country as an investment, biggest investment ever made. It's all going to good stuff. I mean, all real big, good stuff. Energy projects, big things. But they all 3 told me essentially the same thing. We thought your country was dead, and now you've got the hottest country in the world. We're right now riding the hottest country. We all, and you can all be proud of it. We're in the hottest country. This is the hottest country in the world. There's nobody close. Made hotter by some great pilots and great machines that nobody else has. Those great, big, beautiful machines. They rode those machines right into the toughest territory. And nobody knew what the hell happened. And then they hit their targets perfectly. And it was complete and total obliteration. And that's why that war ended, Steve. They told me that's why the war ended. The war ended when they saw that, it was over. And we're very proud of it. But we have the hottest country in the world right now, from a country that was close to dead. And if I didn't win, if you would have had the other person win, we all know who she is. Whether it was she or Biden, they're the same. He may have been more competent than her, and that's hard to believe, right? But if you had that ideology in, I don't believe you would have had a country anymore. I think you would have had a country that was broken up. But we had a dead country. Now we have the hottest country in the world, and everybody knows it, and everybody said it. Mr. Vice President, do you have anything to say?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say that I'm very proud of the whole team. I think everybody has worked together. You see Pete and Marco and Steve working on some of the diplomacy, Christy and Pam working on the border. We just have a really, really solid team, and we've done a lot of good work. And in particular, I want to congratulate the White House staff led by the president on getting the One Big Beautiful Bill passed. Yeah. I was personally skeptical, sir. I never told you this, but I was skeptical we'd be able to get that thing done by July 4th. We did it because we worked together and we worked very well. So it's an honor to be a part of it, but I'm really proud of you guys for doing a great job.
The beautiful thing about it, it had something for everyone.
That's right.
Most people said it had to be broken into 7 bills. It's so big. The problem was that some of those 7 have nothing for anyone, but they had to be done for, sometimes you have to do things for the country that aren't necessarily popular. We had a couple of them, and that wouldn't have worked. So the One Big Beautiful Bill, many people said it could never be approved. Too big, too everything is too much. But it had something very big and very important for everyone, and it's great for the country. And remember, the Democrats have come up with a false narrative, just whatever. It's just a line that they send to everybody and that they print. I think in the case of this, it's death, death. Everyone's going to die. I heard that. Everyone's going to, just the opposite. Everyone's going to live. What we're doing is saving our country and making it much bigger, better, and stronger than it ever was. I'd like to ask, Marco's been doing such a great job. Do you have anything to say?
Well, it's just going through a list here, Mr. President, and I think the Vice President's pointed out to the great team you have, and all these achievements that have happened domestically. But you think about it, under your leadership, we prevented and ended a war between India and Pakistan. NATO's now at 5% for the first time ever, the highest numbers ever. A peace deal between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. A 12-day war that ended with an American operation that we're the only country in the world that could have done. Hopefully, pretty soon, a peace deal between Azerbaijan and Armenia. The entire Middle East and the infrastructure of it has the potential now to change because of Syria and Lebanon, and it hasn't even been 6 months.
Sure.
It hasn't even been 6 months. So it's a great testament to your leadership in this team.
Well, thank you very much. And you've done a fantastic job. Could I just ask Linda, she's involved in so much. She's so talented and so good. And she's working on a couple of little things like Harvard, who was given $5.5 billion over a short period of time. We caught him on that one. It's crazy. But you're working on so much. You want to bring education back to the States. How are you doing?
Well, absolutely, and thank you for the opportunity. I think on the big, beautiful bill, what we saw, was school choice, that's finally on a national basis at the state level, but there are opportunities now for scholarships, more and more of them for kids who are in family schools. It's going to be a big turnaround. I think one of the biggest accomplishments we had over the past week was University of Pennsylvania with the Title IX ruling that Leah Thomas was stripped of her title, Riley Gaines and Paula Scanlon and other women who have stood, so strong against men and women's sports. And when you put out the executive order, that just solidified it and gave them the opportunity. So those are a couple of really, really big wins. And thank you for that opportunity.
And how are you doing with Columbia and Harvard?
We're negotiating hard. I think we're getting close to having that happen. It's not wrapped up as fast as I wanted to, but we're getting there.
Okay, good. And you've done a fantastic job. Thank you very much.
It's been a good team.
Yep. You have a great team.
Around this table, a lot of people have helped with that.
That's right. Thank you very much. Maybe just in closing, we spent a lot of time, effort, very little money on this room. This is called the Cabinet Room. It's been here for a long time. And it had some pictures that were not many of them and not very good ones. And I actually spent time in the vaults. The vaults are where we have a lot of great pictures and artwork. And I picked it all myself. I'm very proud of it. That's Andrew Jackson, great Andrew Jackson. That's a gentleman named, and we call him President Polk. He was sort of a real estate guy. He was, people don't realize he was a one-termer, but he was a very good president. And I'm not sure I should be doing this. He actually gave us the state of California. He was there. So I'm not sure. Maybe he won't be there for long. But if you notice, the frame is the exact same size almost as the other one is Andrew Jackson. So that was a part of the reason too, I have to be honest. But Polk was actually a very good president who's got the same frame that I needed, okay? And up here you have the original George Washington right behind the light. And then you have Dwight Eisenhower, who was a very underrated president, built the interstate system, and he was the toughest president, I guess, until we came along. But I don't mind giving up that crown because I don't want to be too tough on it, but we want to be humane. But he was the toughest president on immigration. He was very strong at the borders, very, very strong. And sometimes you can be too strong. He was strong at the borders, and during a certain period of time, they were so strong that almost every farmer in California went bankrupt. And we have to remember that. We have to work together. We have to remember that. But he was a very good president and a very good general and a very good president. And I thought he deserved a position somewhere on this floor. And then you have, this is very exciting to me, he was not a Republican, to put it mildly, but he was, he was a four-termer. He was Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And if you notice, there were a lot of ramps outside. We have ramp. People say it's an unusual place for a ramp. It was because of him. He was wheelchair bound. but he was an amazing man. It's an amazing portrait, and we used to have him in the room, a different portrait, and it was a terrible portrait. It was almost like it was done by a child. And I used to say, you know, I can't believe that he would have approved of that portrait of himself. And I was in the vaults and looking at things. I said, what's that? And we have some great curators here. We have 6 curators at the White House. They have 2 for paintings, they have them for furniture, they have them for different things. I guess cost is no object. Okay, cost is, maybe I'd have 1, but that's all right. But we have 6 and they're very talented. And we said, that's a picture of FDR. I said, really? Let me see it. They took off the wrap. He's very well preserved. And I said, that's the picture they've been looking for years. That was the picture of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And I said, oh, wow. And likewise, that fit, see frame-wise, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work if you have, I want to be nice, but it doesn't work if you have a big frame, a little frame, but it's like perfection. I'm a perfectionist. The mirror was down in the vaults also. I said, where is this from? And it's a very old, very storied mirror, beautiful. We put that up. And then over there is Honest Abe Lincoln. And that picture was in his bedroom. And we thought that this would be a very important place because this is where wars are ended. I'm not going to say wars are declared. I'm going to say wars are ended. Okay, we'll be positive. And that's the picture of Abe Lincoln from his bedroom, sat in the bedroom for many, many years. That was his favorite picture of himself. And the Lincoln bedroom's very famous. You remember when Bill Clinton had it and he rented it out to people. Okay, we don't do that, but it's an incredible room. And we took that picture from his bedroom. That's Abe Lincoln. And then over here you have John Adams, and it's they were the first occupants of the White House, 1800. And John Quincy Adams, Mrs. Adams. They were the first occupants. So we have them looking at each other, and in between their stare is Abraham Lincoln trying to make peace. And that picture was in a room that I have that was not important, like the cabinet. I gave it up. I said, I have to give it up because that's one of the greatest pictures of the White House. The White House is tremendous art. And the Oval Office, when we're there, we'll go over that. That's really been something. Then we got the drapes, so we got the whole thing. We got new drapes. We got new, wasn't a big expense, very, very small. And we took some of the Chinaware and silverware and trophyware, they call it, from the vaults, and we had it cleaned up, hadn't been shined up in 100 years. Some of this has sat in the vaults for over 100 years. Amazing. Over 100 years. Many of the pictures that were put up in the Oval Office as an example, of those two as an example. So like he was president. They moved.
I don't care no more, bro. I don't care. All about this decoration stuff, I don't care. Much love to everybody. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Hit the like if you haven't. Hit the subscribe. I'll be back later, probably tonight, later on with I really want to get into the Texas and see what's going on with Texas now, New Mexico, from what I understand. I might get into the Epstein stuff the best I can. But I'm really, really, really interested in what's going on in the North Carolina with all these floods. And what's up with our children and what's going on. I got some pretty good videos to show. I got some proof of some manipulation type stuff going on. So other than that, we'll keep an eye on what's going on with Trump and what's going on with the world stage. Other than that, I hope y'all have a beautiful night. I'm going to get up out of here. Peace out, or beautiful day. I say night, bro. It's only 3:30 in the afternoon. Y'all have a beautiful day. Much love, y'all. Peace out. Make sure you're subscribed. I'm out.